I could have a relationship with an orangutan without a shadow of a doubt.
Could you?
Well, they're very intelligent creatures, aren't they?
Very, very early morning sports radio for postmen, trolley dollies,
Out of a dirt chip, pressed whack.
and anyone who had to do a dawn runner after a very ill-advised one-night stand.
Go, go, go.
Over my dead body.
The Two Mikes on Talk Sport.
People in New Zealand do a lot of fishing because there's a lot of fish around, aren't there?
I'll be your waiter for today.
Yeah, that's
Really?
right. Yeah,
Great. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Go give you a treat. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and it's time to say to a very, very miserable-looking Mike Porky Parry, a very good morning. But before we say good morning to you, we just want you to take a little walk down memory lane and have a listen to this.
Come by me, Stones!
Origi.
Oh! Stones!
Sacco is there this time, and it's 2-0.
Come by me, Stones!
Durridge has got the ball inside the penalty
Oh! My name's Jose. I like to work for Comrade Abramovich. He owns 4 yachts and my football club, and he's very, very rich. But I don't care too much for his money. Money can't buy me Stones.
Stones is down. He's struggling now.
Oh dear, he's gone down. He doesn't look entirely happy. He's walking off the pitch. I think they're going to have to make a substitution.
Money can't buy me Stones.
Coutinho sets it, shoots towards the far corner, and it's a lovely arrow goal.
Come buy me Stones. Everton is telling me so. Come buy me Stones. No, 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 no.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Well, it's not a good morning, is it?
It's not, is it? No.
No.
I feel very bad for you.
No, don't worry about it.
I do worry.
For Everton fans, it's miserable and dreadful. And I'm really fed up with the consistent reaction of our manager, Roberto Martinez, after humiliating defeats. Because the man's...
you're finally turning the corner on it.
I'm not turning the corner. I'm just looking at... I'm not turning the corner. Now, shut up, Mike. If you want me to react, stop interrupting and putting words in my mouth, OK?
You've said to me in the past that you think Roberto Martinez
I've said what
is
I've
the
said
man
in the
for job.
past because
don't
I've...
need to get so rude.
No, I've said in the past what I think is the current situation. The current situation now, after that result tonight... Mr. Martinez's response afterwards was completely inadequate. I hate the way he rolls his eyes around as though, it's not my fault and I don't know what's going on.
At the end of the road, then?
I don't know what's going on, and it's all a mystery to me how this can be. The issue here is that this far into the season, with only 9 victories, he had a golden legacy at Everton. He had a golden generation.
Yes.
We used to talk about the England golden generation with Beckham and Scholes and Burton.
Well, they never won anything either.
And they didn't won anything, you're absolutely right. And then all of a sudden, Everton get a terrific team on paper at the start of this season. Everybody's very excited. Lukaku and Stones and Barkley being the spine of the team. We go to Southampton in the second game of the season, having drawn to Watford in the opening game, but Watford are a promoted team.
Yeah.
And I've always given the benefit of the doubt to a promoted team coming up and giving it 120% on day one.
Yeah.
So we go to Southampton, win 3-0.
You're not going to go through every game of the season.
Hang on, just listen. Lukaku was the star of the show. I thought, wow, we have got a golden generation. Look at the way Barkley moves and sets things up from the middle. And then nothing happened after that of any consequence. And I've given Mr. Martinez the doubt, but the problem is that he's wasted that generation because now that team will break up. Lukaku will go. I'm pretty sure.
Well, there's no reason for him to hang around, is there?
John Stones has been devalued by about £30 million.
John Stones has got worse and worse and worse as every game has gone on. I believe he walked off last night, not because he was not feeling well, but because he was embarrassed.
I told you that out there.
You didn't tell me that.
I did tell you that.
No,
I said in my view, I don't think John Stones had stomach cramps. I think yet another dreadful attempt to pass the ball out of defence and, be a football defender has backfired on him, and I think it all became too much, and he came off the pitch. So that's not good management. A manager who's got control of John Stones should treat him
so you have finally
like
turned
porcelain.
a corner then?
I have not turned a corner.
Have.
Will you please stop interpreting what I'm saying?
Well, I am interpreting it. It's my job to
interpret
what you're saying because you're not saying it right.
I am. What do you mean I'm not saying it right?
Well, what are you saying exactly?
What I'm saying is what I'm saying,
you're saying
not what you want me to say.
All right, well, you're saying that Martinez is not doing the right job properly, right?
I'm giving you an assessment of where I think we are with Martinez after that game tonight.
Is he doing the job or not?
And I'm not answering your questions.
Why
I'm
not?
giving an assessment because they're stupid questions,
How
right?
is that a stupid question?
It's a stupid question because it's a provocative question.
Well, that's
because you
what I
don't
do.
follow a football
That's
club
what
and
I
have
do.
no idea.
There's no point attacking me for it.
And you have no idea of the emotions that
Well, I'm sorry you're upset.
that roar through
I'm trying to be understanding.
the blood veins and the heart system
I'm trying to be as
of a
understanding
fan
as I
of a
can be.
club who's had to endure what Everton
I'm
fans
trying to be as
endure.
understanding as I can be.
You can't be
But
understanding.
if you keep being rude to me, then it's hard for me to be
Well, if you
understanding.
just shut up, I can't be rude to you, can you?
Well, I don't want you to go through the whole season and
I'm
tell
not going
me
through the whole
bleating on
season.
and on about what's been good and what's been not good.
Right, go on, you give your assessment then, because
Well,
clearly...
no, I just want to ask you a question.
Well, if it's a
But you won't
sensible
answer
question,
it.
well, what's the question?
Do you think Martinez should go? How about that question?
I was about to say to you, with the golden generation and all that, would you then give that man, after the performance that he's put in as a manager of what should be a top 6 club this season and one of the most traditional clubs in this country, would you give him the benefit of the doubt to spend £100 million over the summer and then take charge of another campaign?
Well, what are you
of
asking me
38
for?
I'm not asking you, I'm asking the listeners.
Oh, okay.
And take control of a team for 38 Premier League games again next season? The answer to that, for me, would have to be no.
So time to sack him then?
I would not take that risk.
Well, say it's time to sack him then, isn't it?
I heard a fan in the last show who said that the bravest thing that Everton could do would be to relieve him of his duties in the next couple of days before we get to Wembley on Saturday. That would be an absolutely drastic step. And Jason Condy
That would
jumped
be a
in
kind
and
of
said,
kamikaze move, wouldn't it?
Jason Condy jumped in and said Everton aren't a sacking club. It's not that Everton are not a sacking club. It's that during the 11 years of Davy Moyes, it would have been completely wrong to have sacked David Moyes whenever anything went slightly wrong, because Everton didn't have the £100 million a
But
year
I
they're going
heard
to get
you on
in
the
the
Sports
future.
Breakfast this morning saying that Martinez had a better record than David Moyes.
Well, on paper, he has.
But only in the Cup.
Well, yes, only in the Cup, but he's got a similar record in the league because David was there for 11 years and there were some down seasons in 11 years. One year we finished 17th, whereas Martinez has done it over 3 years. Now, his first year, he inherited Davy Moyes' team, finished 5th. Second year, 11th, which is about average, right? This year, absolutely dreadful. So, I just can't believe that Everton can go forward now with Mr. Martinez. Mr. Martinez, in my view, the job is too big for him. The job of managing Everton Football Club is too big for him.
think he can do it.
In my view, I think he came.
Well, it's time for him to go. In other words,
He came on a wave of popular enthusiasm for a guy who sounded good, looked good, talked good, had a sort of rising star type potential from Swansea to Wigan. I know Wigan went down, but everybody said, well, that's because they had no resources.
well, you've always called him
But
one
he
of the
won
great
FA
young
Cup.
managers of the football world.
Well, he was, along with Brendan Rodgers. And what happened to Brendan Rodgers?
well, he was
They
going
get
the same
found
way.
out. They get found out at a certain level. At a certain level, they get found out.
All right, well, if you don't mind, we're going to have
I think we should.
a listener's view on this. Justin is a Liverpool fan over in Essex. Hello, Justin.
Oh, well, hiya, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Justin. I'm not quite sure
I
why we're
don't take-
talking to you as a Liverpool fan when it's Everton we're talking about, but
Because
welcome to the show.
He's got a view he wishes to espouse. He's perfectly capable of doing so. Carry on, Justin.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Graham. Yes, most of the time I do listen to Talk Sport, and I love your show. And I know that Liverpool are going to be fighting for the league next season under Klopp, because if we spend well in the summer, we will definitely be fighting for the title. And don't keep putting Liverpool down, Mr.
I don't put Liverpool down.
Parry.
I don't, Justin.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. No, I don't. No, you're
yes,
wrong
you
there.
do.
I don't. I'm not a Liverpool baiter or hater. I'm sorry, you're wrong there.
No, you do. I every time I listen to you, when Everton are playing well, I support Everton. I love to see Everton win.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's the other way round, I don't know. You seem to put Liverpool down for some reason.
No, I don't.
Liverpool
I don't,
are
honestly.
superior to Everton.
No.
Well, I mean, he does say that he doesn't enjoy seeing Liverpool doing well, because why would he? I mean, they're the major rivals of Everton.
I've always said, Justin, and if you've listened to me over the years, I've always said I want Merseyside to be the bastion of top football in this country. I don't want it to be Manchester. I don't want it to be
how's that
London.
going?
I don't want it to be London. I want it to be Merseyside. And in the 80s, when the league title stayed in the city for 6 consecutive years, I thought it was great to be part of that.
I totally agree with that. It was great.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Klopp is a great manager, and he's going to bring us definitely Premiership title in the
Well, Klopp, I think, is inspiring. I don't know why we suddenly talked to a Liverpool fan when we were talking about Everton. I find that very odd.
Everton played Liverpool.
Yeah, I know Everton played Liverpool, so don't we want the opinion of the Everton fans, how they feel about it?
I think Everton fans are all hiding under their bushels.
Well, I don't think they
Keeping
are.
their light under their bushels.
I think Liverpool fans are bound to be critical of Everton.
There are no all the Everton fans that I know of that tweet this show regularly are not tweeting currently.
Klopp,
I think
to
they're
me,
all feeling very, very depressed.
Klopp, to me,
it's a great night to be a Liverpool fan.
Klopp, to me, for Liverpool, is the nearest thing they've ever had to Bill Shankly. Now, when Liverpool had Shankly in the 60s and the 70s, we had a guy called Harry Catterick. Harry Catterick was a brilliant manager, but he had no charisma, and he did not stir up the crowd in the way Bill Shankly stirred up the Liverpool crowd and made them what they are today, the famous Kop. And if Everton need a charismatic manager...
Everton have always been a poor relation to Liverpool, haven't they, really?
Oh, don't be such...
They have.
Don't be a complete idiot.
They have. Look at Liverpool's honours. Look at what they've won.
Look at what they've won.
Look at what they've won in Europe.
What an idiotic statement.
Look at what they've won in Europe.
Until 1958, Liverpool were a music hall joke.
1958?
They hadn't won anything,
Are you having
believe
a laugh?
me. No,
Are you having a laugh?
No, I'm not having a laugh,
people
mate.
are still driving around in Model T Fords.
I'm not having a laugh,
and walking
mate.
around in suits,
You make
even when they cleaned the streets.
Sweeping statements.
It's a very
based on ignorance.
It's a very true statement. I'm sorry you're upset. I hope you're going to cheer up soon. I'm doing my best to try and keep him happy, but it's not really easy.
You're doing your best to try and wind me up because you're a thick-headed, juice-headed, four-eyed wastrel.
Wastrel. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
Talk Sport, we are the two Mikes. A lot of people are expressing their concern for you, Porky. James says, I think Mike Parry's going to have heart failure during this show at TS Extra Time. Here's one from Vid who says, I think Porky needs to calm down. Surely this anger can't be good for the 1/3 of his heart that works. Hashtag save the Porky. Sufi says, excuses. Hope Porky's carrying extra medication tonight. And Tracy says, I'm a bit worried from IROMG. Is he safe in the studio?
Yeah.
Hashtag Porky meltdown.
Oh, I've got one here. It says, hi, MG. My pal worked for you when you were at the Mirror in Scotland and told me your nickname was Sparky. Is this true?
Who's this from?
This is from...
this is the guy who sent me 3 of those types of tweets.
Well, can you answer that question?
Well, let me tell you where the first question. The first one he sent me was, I had a pal who worked at the Daily Express.
Yes.
And when you worked in New York, and he said something similar.
Yes.
No, I was never known as Sparky. The guy's clearly drunk. And he deleted the last tweet that he sent me, so I wouldn't read those out if I were you.
Why?
Because he's clearly a bit deranged.
Well, you say he's deranged, but I mean, why did he think you were called Sparky?
Well, he's just making it up. You know how people get drunk on Twitter and send you stupid questions?
No, I think you probably were. Why were you called Sparky? Come on, can you tell the audience?
I wasn't called Sparky.
I think you were.
Why would I be called Sparky?
Well, I think it's something to do
Mark
with...
Hughes is called Sparky.
I think it's...
Do you know why Mark Hughes is called Sparky?
Because he used to be an electrician.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure it's not because his name is Mark?
No.
Okay.
It's because he was an apprentice electrician.
I was never an electrician, so why would I be called Sparky?
Well, I'm told, because I made some inquiries, it's something to do with your, alley cat-like lifestyle in Glasgow.
Why would that have anything to do with Sparks?
Well, I'm not going to go into that.
All right. Who did you speak to?
I can't.
Why are you trying to sort of derail the conversation away from Everton?
I'm not derailing any conversation, mate. I'm very happy to talk about it.
All I would suggest to you is that guy there, whose name is not real, it says Wembley, doesn't it?
I think it does.
His name?
I think it does.
Now, if you want to encourage maniacs who send tweets in and ask questions, I can read out a few of the ones that get sent into you if you like.
No. It's all right. I just thought...
Becky says this. Good to hear Porky telling it like it is regarding Everton. Kudos to him. Hard to defend the undefendable.
Well, it is. It is hard to defend the indefensible tonight, I'm afraid. And the point is, that you're all very well saying you've got to be loyal to your club. Of course you've got to be loyal to your club. And I want to be loyal to my club and to my team. But it's the opportunity to have really done something this season which is irking
I think the next
millions of Everton fans.
Is now due to be asked, right? You've asked you the first question, which is it time for Martinez to go, which you've said, yes, it is.
I didn't say that.
You said that the job is too big for him.
Don't put words in my mouth. I did not say it's time for him to go.
So you think he should stay then?
No, I don't think he should necessarily.
Well, what do you think? You don't think he should stay, you don't think he should go?
I've said already that I wouldn't give him £100 million to buy players over the summer, and I wouldn't put him in charge of the current Everton squad to play 38 Premier League games next season. So draw your own conclusions from that if you're bright enough.
No, I'd rather you just answer the question.
I've answered the question. I just told you.
All right, so you don't think he should be the manager next season?
I think we need somebody in charge next season who can motivate a fantastic group of players who can do real. De La Feu is a fantastic footballer.
De La Feu.
And we get him, and we get the three I've already mentioned, and we take our
Stones
terrific.
Was a disgrace last night, as he has been in most of the last several games Everton have played. In terms of his defensive capability, he's completely useless.
We take our terrific full-backs that we've got, and we take midfield players.
4-0. How terrific are they?
Well, unfortunately, they weren't both playing. Seamus Coleman is a terrific fullback. He's both a great defender, great attacker. He wasn't playing, obviously, and Leighton Baines, can't be a one-man team. It's just the way they're organised.
I mean, how do you turn
up? The way they're organised, and that's the manager's fault.
How do you turn up to play one of the biggest games of the year against your biggest rivals and get humiliated? I mean, it is pathetic, isn't it?
Well, we've all agreed on that. Have you got anything original to say?
Well,
instead of stating the obvious.
Well, because I think people need to know how you feel about it. Instead of
if people have not gathered
creeping around the houses and not actually saying what you mean.
If people don't know how I feel about it now, they must be deaf, Mike, because I've made my position absolutely clear. What worries me mostly...
You don't even want to tell me whether you think you should be sacked or not. Should he be sacked or not?
What worries me mostly is the fact that Everton are going to the semi-final of the FA Cup on Saturday evening, 5:30. I should be there at Wembley. I suppose Mr. Gilson will be there, will he?
You sure you want to still go?
And if he starts trying to gloat about anything before the game...
Why are you attacking him?
I'm not attacking him. And the
Manchester United won, of course, last night, so they'll be going into the game with a bit more of a positive
this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Now, can the season be rescued by winning the semi-final of the FA Cup? Because I do believe if we win that semi-final on Saturday, we've got a very, very good chance of winning the FA Cup. We could end up playing Watford, circa 1984. We could play Crystal Palace. Either of which we should have a decent chance of overcoming to win the FA Cup. Would that be good enough?
Don't you feel like after a while you're just talking absolute and utter cobblers and everything you say?
What is cobblers about what I've just said?
Well, you just said yesterday that you were expecting to get something out of the game against Liverpool at Anfield, right?
I've just been talking about the semi-final of the FA Cup.
But you've been saying this all season.
I've just been talking about the semi-final of the FA Cup.
I know.
Do you not think that if Everton get through against Manchester United...
I don't think they will, though. I mean, you might as well say...
they've got a good chance of winning the FA Cup.
You might as well say they've got a good chance of winning the Europa League. You might as well say they've got a good chance of getting into the Champions League next year if they get a decent manager, because they've got a good team. It's all if and but and maybe, isn't it? You can't really rely on anything.
Well, that's all the future can be. That's all when you're looking forward to a big football game. The whole of the discussion period between you talking now and me talking now and the game happening has to be projection, and has to be if, but, and could be. Because unless you've got a crystal ball, you can't tell what's going to happen.
If you've said the job is too big for Martinez, how can you possibly have any faith in him going to Wembley in a semi-final against one of the biggest teams in the world and expect him to get anything out of it?
I'm not sure I have, but I'm saying Everton, the players themselves, can motivate themselves on the back of what was clearly a humiliation, can stir themselves, motivate themselves, go into the game against Manchester United and pull it out of the bag. It's happened before, it can happen again.
I see no evidence for that. Dion says this, until 1958, Everton were a top team. He goes, LOL. Same year Khrushchev became USSR leader and the year of the first transatlantic BOAC flight.
No, that was in response to your stupid statement. You said, Everton have always been second to Liverpool.
They have.
Well, they haven't, Mike. This is the problem. If you knew your history, you'd know what a ridiculous comment that was.
I'm not going back to the last century. I'm going back to within our lifetime.
Well, I appreciate the heritage of a football club as much as I appreciate what they're doing these days. And if you don't, that's your tough luck.
Well, I don't think there's any point in talking about
what they think about the heritage of theirs.
I don't think there's any point in going back, before 1960 to talk about what a great team you've got.
Okay.
What's the point of that? It's completely pointless.
You wouldn't appreciate the heritage of a football team. You don't support one, so you're at a disadvantage, and I accept that.
I'm not at a disadvantage at all. I'm able to see things clearly, with clarity, without having my eyes completely and utterly blinkered. No, well, I can't understand the way you think, that's true, but I can understand the way football fans think, and just because you think that you go to more football matches than I do, which I think is debatable, by the way, because I don't think you do.
Well, where do you think I go, then? Where do you think I go?
Well, how many games have you been to this year?
Where do you think I'm going to go on Saturday?
We're going to go to the semi-final.
Exactly, yeah. So, and who did I invite to that semi-final?
So you didn't invite me?
I certainly did.
When?
I said to you could have come with me if you'd wanted, and you said you didn't want to go. Because Saturday is the day we should have been playing Crystal Palace had we not been in the semi-final.
Yes. And I would have had to go to Crystal Palace because I'd agreed to do that.
Yes.
But as I've said to you before, it's not exactly the most enjoyable football. So
don't worry, because I won't be inviting you to any football matches in the future.
With
you've evidenced such a stupidity in the understanding of the game of football. football that I'd be embarrassed to walk into a football stadium with you in future.
Would you?
You got that?
Okay. Well, you don't remember walking out of them mostly, unless I'm with you.
And by the way, 27 minutes into our show, I think we should mention the fact that I want to express my hearty congratulations to our sovereign, the Queen. I'm going to stand up now. She is, in fact, 90 years of age today.
What are you standing up for?
Because I'm congratulating the Queen on being 90. It's magnificent. This woman has held this country together for 90 years, held the empire together in the early days of her reign. This woman is magnificent. She's one of the greatest stateswomen of all time in the history of the earth.
Oh, look, the Times have done a big wraparound, and on the back they've got an old sort of classified ads section.
It's a front page.
Do you think you've got one of your ads in there?
What ad? What are you talking about?
Well, one of the ads that you put in the Times.
The ads? I don't put ads in the Times.
Yeah, you did. You put an ad in the Times once.
Well, this was Thursday, April the 22nd, 1926. It was many, many decades after that when I once put an ad in the Times.
I don't fancy the layout of it much, do you?
Well, they never used to have anything but adverts on the front when the Times was first published, when it was known as the Thunderer.
Hasn't got any headlines on it.
Hasn't got any headlines because it hasn't got any stories on the front. I just told you that.
It doesn't say the Queen was born.
Well, the Queen wasn't born. She wasn't the Queen then, was she?
Well, surely she'd just been born, though, and she was the daughter of the King.
Yeah, she was.
Wasn't she?
Yeah.
So why didn't they announce it?
Because it's been announced on the inside pages.
That's hopeless, isn't it?
No, they didn't
have on the front page.
No, they didn't have news on the front pages in 1926. They had only adverts. They were not known as newspapers in those days. They were known actually as advertising.
Is it going to be like this all night?
No,
it's going to be like this all night. Having to sort of, to tiptoe around, you just because you're in a bad mood.
Well, you mentioned the fact that they've got a printout of the Times in 1926, not me. So you brought it up, pal, so don't start contradicting yourself and running yourself round in riddles,
yeah, right. Okay? Now, we've got some people who've called in. None of them are Everton fans. No Everton fans are calling in because they're ashamed of their football club.
No,
they're probably ashamed of the way you're talking about Martinez, and they won't call us. So we've got Liverpool fans, we've got Sunderland fans. Would you like to talk to any of them, or would you rather ban them from the show?
No, I'm very happy to talk to any football fan who wants to share a discussion with us on the platform of Talk Sport. No problem.
Well, and coming up, we'll talk to loads and loads of you who have called in, and many of you can join in. If you are an Everton fan and you want to say something, we'd love to hear from you. 08717 223344. Steve Nichols going to be on as well very shortly. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Oh, what a night. Late December back in 63. What a very special time for me. As I remember what a night. Oh, what a night. You know I didn't even know her name.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Steve Nichols coming up a little while. Porkyvision, of course, taking place a little bit later on in the show. Graham in Bath says this to Porky. John Stones was to blame for 2 or 3 of the Liverpool goals. Didn't look 60,000, never mind 60 million. Also, are both Porky and yourself still working after the football season finishes on the night shift, getting withdrawal symptoms already? And he says, keep up the great work. Not sure, actually, is the answer to that.
No, I think you're referring to the fact that in the next 2 weeks we'll be doing a daytime show, filling in for our great pals, Paul Nandy, Hawksby and Jacobs.
Yeah, 1 to 4. It's good that it's 1 to 4.
It is, it's 1 to 4,
all you got to do is flip your life around by 12 hours.
That's right, absolutely, yeah.
Spurs' David Biggleswade says, when Porky shouted at you at the start of the show, Mike, I think he was being really horrible.
What?
Horrible.
No, I wasn't. I was
Which
just
is
trying...
the word of the night.
No. He was trying to wind me up. You see...
I was not trying to wind you up.
I want our listeners to know that secretly you think you have a superior intellect to me. So you think,
I don't think that at all.
I'll just wind Porky up by stating the obvious. And when you state the obvious, it does irritate me because you sound like a plank.
I don't in any way think that I have a superior intellect to you. That's your own inferiority complex peeking through.
I haven't got an inferiority complex.
Lord Rilo, of course you have. You've got every chip that any man can ever have on his shoulder. Lord Rilo says, don't be too harsh, MG, on Porky. You must know he actually remembers pre-1960s when Everton were the top club.
No, I'm not. I'm going to ignore all that sort of stuff. All I talk about is that it's not a crime to refer to the heritage of your club, and the heritage of your club adds to the pain when you see them, stumbling as we are at the moment.
David, who's a Man United fan, says we are now 18 points ahead of you in the league.
Yeah, okay, very good. And where's that got you?
Trevor says, well, they might be getting into the top 4 any minute now.
I wish them luck. I wish
Trevor
any club
says
luck.
this, MP is wrong again. Sparky Hughes was never an electrician. You confused him with Stuart Pearce and Sir Alex Ferguson. Both were once Sparkies.
Alex Ferguson was, in fact, a Sparky in the Govan shipyards, wasn't he?
Well, was he known as Sparky?
I've no idea. I've never heard him referred to as Sparky.
No, you never heard me referred to as Sparky either.
No, I haven't actually. But that's some secret that you hid back in Scotland.
Well, no, that's just you trying to sort of get back at me for some reason because you're upset with me. Just because I've asked you a few straightforward questions. D says, "Sit down, Porky. You aren't due a knighthood." #creep.
Excuse me, I'm not apologising for paying tribute to the monarch who has kept this country together for 60 years,
really?
OK?
Okay.
So if you don't like that, you can stick it in your pipe and smoke it, or stick it on your jumper.
Porky is ungracious in defeat as ever. He's very bitter about it. FA semi-final, he got more chance of platting fog.
No, I'm not. I'm not bitter, and I'm not being ungracious. I'm being very truthful and very honest. I think anybody would agree with that. Okay. Anybody.
Well, let's talk to James, who's an Everton fan, who has rung in. James, a very good morning to you.
You all right?
Yeah.
Hello, James.
What do you want to say, James?
First of all, I want Martinez out. I think he's had enough time. Nothing seems to be changing.
Yeah.
Second of all, I want to know why Mike is so quick to jump on Stones and Everton. Every single time Everton have a defeat, John Stones makes a mistake. You're on top of him every single time.
Well, he makes a lot of mistakes, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's an up-and-coming English central defender. He's supposed to give him a bit of room here, isn't it?
I think the point is,
the
James,
problem is that people said that he was worth 80 million quid, and Porky was one of them. And when you start talking about a player being worth 80 million quid, he's not supposed to make those kind of mistakes.
No, true, but we all know 80 million quid's a bit jumped. You know, 40, 50.
But James, don't you think
50 million?
James, don't you think that at some stage the manager should have got hold of him and said, "Now look, there's a time to play out of defence and there's a time to just clear the ball. And although you're a ball playing defender in the in the mould of Bobby Moore or something like that, you can't yet do that. You've got to learn your craft."
Yeah, because he's not, is he? I mean, he's not perfected.
You've got to learn your craft and you've got to perfect the art of defending before you can get clever. Somebody should have told him that, James, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Our biggest mistake was letting Stones and Weir go out of our backroom staff. If them two were still there, I think they'd help John Stones a lot.
Who did you say? David Weir, yeah, and who else were you talking about?
Alan Stubbs.
Stubbs, yeah, absolutely right. No, I totally agree with you.
James, who do you fancy as the next manager of Everton then?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Well, to be honest, James, we're Evertonians. I don't think we should be discussing who the next manager of Everton's going to be until the board have resolved the situation with the current manager. But clearly, there is an issue there that's got to be sorted out, isn't there?
Yeah, well, do you not think it'd be a good idea to look at, maybe not act on it, but on the last show, they mentioned about Duncan Ferguson taking us into the semi-final. Well, surely that can't be any worse than what Martinez is going to do.
Well, I'm not against that. If that was the decision of the board overnight, if the board were having an emergency meeting now following, the debacle at Anfield, and they suddenly issued a statement at 4 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock, whatever time you want, saying that, we've come to a mutual agreement and Duncan Ferguson, I wouldn't disagree with that. The only thing is, I'm not going to start beating a drum against a bloke, Martinez, who's still in a job, but I've made my position clear. I don't think he's the guy to, rebuild Everton from what they are now and take us forward into another Premier League season.
When he first took over, I thought he was the wrong man straight away. And
did you? Why? Why did you think that?
Because of what happened at Wigan. I didn't want Martinez. And then he proved me wrong the first season because he had Moyes. He had Moyes' squad.
He did, yeah. He did.
He had everything Moyes done. Yeah. But he's picked at it. He's picked it apart over the last 3 seasons. And he's left us to see exactly what he can do. Yeah. And he can't defend.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with a lot of what you said, James.
Well, James says he doesn't think he should be in charge on Saturday. You don't seem to be sure one way or the other.
I've already referred to the fact that I heard a fan ring in tonight and say, it may even be such a desperate situation that we need somebody else to be in charge of the team. I'm saying that's an option that I can't necessarily dismiss outright.
Yeah, but also this business of, you can't go looking around for a new manager while there's already one there.
Yeah.
Surely if the board decide that we need to find a new manager, they need to have somebody in mind. They can't just get rid of him and go, well, we'll hopefully find somebody before the next season starts.
Well, what James just said about putting Duncan Ferguson in charge for a few games is what I think should have happened when David Moyes announced he was leaving. There were 3 games left at the end of that season, and I think David should have been thanked and asked to leave at that moment, because it's like we were carrying him as the next Manchester United manager.
Yeah.
And that would have given somebody like Phil Neville or Duncan Ferguson the opportunity to take charge of the team for 3 games. Maybe
Somebody
that's the thing to do
tweeted,
now.
I can't find it at the moment, asking if you think Gary Neville would be a good next manager for Everton.
I think Gary Neville will one day be a good manager for a club somewhere, but almost inevitably he's going to end up at Manchester United, so I would say no.
Yeah. And Mal says this, I wouldn't bother going to the game at the weekend, Porky. Stones will make United look awesome if he plays.
Well, I mean, if Stones really is ill, who knows if he'll be playing or not? We don't know, do we?
Yeah, OK. And Philip says one of Roper's enforcers in the night manager was called Sparky. So we've got some kind of Sparky thing going through the show tonight. Yeah. We've got lots more coming up, including Steve Nichol, who's going to be on very shortly right here on TalkSport. Talk Sport. We are the 2 mics. One of us is not very happy though, so I'm trying to get as many of you as possible to try and cheer Mike Parry up because he's feeling very, very grumpy and he's taken it out on me for some very, very unfair reason, which seems inexplicable. Right now, we're going to talk to Steve Nichol, a man who knows a little bit about Merseyside derbies, and I'm sure he's a lot happier than Mike Parry is. Steve, very good morning to you.
I'm fantastic. How was the other mate doing?
He's not very happy, actually.
No, Steve, I'm all right. I'm living in the real world, and it was a terrible experience tonight to have witnessed what we did.
Horrible.
But it means that Everton have got to shake things up in a big way, and the bigger way, the better, really, because we've got a golden squad there, Steve, of great players who could have, easily challenged for a top 6 place in the Premier League, and it's been wasted, in my view.
He's lost his sense of humour, Steve.
According to who?
According to me.
Right. Well, unfortunately, you're not in charge.
No, I know I'm not in charge, but I'm a fan, Steve, and I'm saying we had a group of players there who really could have put their mark on the football world this season. When Leicester are challenging for a Premier League title with the players they've got, Everton should have been in the same position to have really made their mark on the Premier League. You look at the spine of that team with Stones, with Barkley, with Lukaku.
Stones is hopeless, though.
We should have done a lot better. He's not hopeless. He was a great player at the start of the season. He's been handled badly.
Well, there's 2 things, right? Either you've got a bunch of players that are overrated, or you've got a manager that can't get them to play. It's one of the 2.
What do you think it is?
I would suggest that right now the players they're getting no direction. I mean, the way the game finished today, I actually felt for Evertonians. I've never seen such a one-sided derby in my life.
41 attempts on goal from Liverpool. Yeah.
And the one thing that really I found strange was when the crowd started olaying.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, somebody's going to get kicked here. But there wasn't any fight or desire or... Nobody showed any pride that the crowd was singing Olé, and they're all standing back letting Liverpool knock the ball around. I found that extremely strange. That suggests to me that the heart's gone out the side.
Yeah, well, that's bad news. If you're saying that's a former professional footballer, I have to say that is something I did not want to hear.
And also, if in fact, as you say, they started off at the start of the season, like Stones started off as a great player at the start of the season, now he's not. Yeah. how does that happen, Steve? I mean, how does a player somehow become worse under a particular manager?
Well, because, Stones' start to the season got interrupted, in my opinion, when... all the talk about the transfer, that's when you have to look after young players. They've never been in a situation before where they're expected to be at such a high level all the time. And when the form dips, to me, I think what you do is you show confidence in them and you keep him in the firing line, and that's how he learns. When you pretty much pull a guy out, you're basically saying you're not good enough. Because if I was a player and I was pulled out the firing line, that tells me I'm not good enough. So when Martinez pulls him out, that message, it's going to destroy or certainly take a little chunk out of a young player. I think that's what's happened to Stones.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a way back, isn't there? And the way back has got to be that somebody else has got to get a hold of that squad, haven't they?
Yeah, no question. I think that route... You know, sometimes you can lose games, and that's the way it goes. But when you lose in such a manner with a lack of fight and desire, that comes down to the coach.
What did you think about the basic marking or lack of it for the first 2 Liverpool goals, Steve? They were pretty basic crosses, you know.
Well, number one, it's responsibility individually for the players on the field. But from a coach's point of view, you have to teach them to be in the right spots in certain situations. And I don't think it's a shock. I've said this before. You know, when Wigan got relegated, it's because they couldn't defend. And that to me means they're not being taught. Now, if they are being taught and they're still in the wrong spots, then they're not good enough. But if you listen to what's been said over this year, Coleman's supposed to be one of the best fullbacks. Stones is supposed to be world class. You know, Maury, they buy him. He's supposed to be fantastic. Whoever's picking the players, maybe they're not good enough, but maybe they're not being coached properly defensively.
Well, that would tend to be suggesting that Martinez did the same at Wigan as he's done at Everton. He doesn't actually know how to defend then.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have coaches on board at Everton who do know how to coach, Steve. Isn't that the way things work these days? That you have a defensive coach, you have a coach to teach your centre-forward how to play, you have a goalkeeping coach. Surely he could have got somebody who could have done that job.
Well, I think another part of being a great coach is understanding what you can and can't do. And if you can't do a certain thing, then you have to be smart enough and you have to be strong enough to admit that you can't do it.
Do you know what? I don't
think he's done that.
I don't think I've ever seen Roberto Martinez in a tracksuit. I mean, literally, I don't think I've ever seen him in an interview in a tracksuit. I think
I've seen it before. Yeah, not very often. But occasionally.
I'm not sure if he gets down and gets with the players or sits in his office. I don't know. But anyway, it's...
Well, he does wear tan shoes, which you don't like either.
Yeah, I don't actually. It's absolutely true. I don't.
You see what I mean, Steve? He's so deflated, right? He's completely lost his sense of humour. He's not allowing anyone to make fun of him. He's as maudlin as ever I've seen him.
I'll tell you what, Mike, if I'd swapped positions with him and it had gone the other way and Liverpool had played the way they did in this game, I would be the same as him. I would be lolling a snake's belly, I can assure you that.
Yeah. Well, there were people that said if Liverpool didn't win tonight, you wouldn't come on.
That is not true at all. I absolutely... And again, I'm talking about defending being a responsibility.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm on tonight, whether Liverpool win or lose, is because I've got personal responsibility.
Of course.
The Everton players in this game showed that they're not taking responsibility for what went wrong. They're all running around looking at each other, waiting for somebody else to do it. That's not how you win games. Everybody has to do their bit. And unfortunately for Everton, there wasn't one of them. Not one of them did their bit.
And what does that mean for the weekend? Because they got this massive semi-final coming up in the FA Cup at Wembley against Manchester United, who won again last night, coincidentally, and who have sort of somehow managed to make something out of their season. I mean, how do the players from Everton get anywhere near motivated to play that game?
Well, again, this comes down to the coach. You know, he has to figure out a way of lifting his players, because when you lose like that, my goodness, it takes an awful lot of building up again. And to have, 3 days to do that? The form they're in, the amount of pressure they're under. And they're playing against a side, in my opinion, who, in a lot of ways, the coach is in the same position. You know, we're all sitting talking about, if Martinez somehow wins the FA Cup, does that mean he stays? But we're actually talking... You could actually say the same thing about Van Gaal. I'd have to say, I would be a lot happier tonight if I'm Van Gaal rather than Martinez.
Oh, of course you would. You beat Crystal Palace 3-1, you got the momentum. Your star is rising gradually at Manchester United because they haven't committed yet to the fact that they're getting a new manager next season. Of course, Manchester United are in a better frame of mind. Crikey, if I was a Manchester United player, I'd be going into the semi-final against Everton thinking we're playing a team that's emotionally beaten up. And that's got to be an advantage, hasn't it?
And the fact that you say that, Mike, could be the only way that Everton can actually win this game, because if Man United, I'm sure they'll sit down and watch part of this game and watch some of the video.
Yeah.
If it starts sinking into them that they just have to turn up, then maybe that could be that little glimpse of hope that Everton have.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's clutching at straws.
It's the only thing they've got left now, really, isn't it?
Clutching at straws there, I'm afraid, but yeah.
Well, Steve, I'm sorry to have brought you down to the level of misery that we're having to sit through here in the studio, because you sounded a lot more cheery when you started the conversation.
I actually feel bad for Mike, because he sounds as though he just wants to be anywhere else but talking about Everton.
I know.
I think I'd rather have been on that golf course you were on today, Steve, you know what I mean?
No, you don't. Not the way I played.
No, well, that's probably true. That's probably true.
Jolly good. Steve, listen, thanks as ever for joining us.
All right,
Steve
thank
Nichol there, being as nice as he can be to you. See, this is what you do. You make people sort of feel sorry for yourself.
No, I don't make people feel sorry. I don't want any pity.
I've never known anyone who goes looking for pity, who turns themselves into a victim.
What do you mean?
All the time. It's
looking
shocking.
for pity? I don't look for pity, you idiot.
The state of you. You come in here, you've been moaning and groaning.
You're a pitiful character.
You've been moaning and groaning. You've had a nasty streak about you as well. Disgraceful behaviour.
Are you wearing those torn trousers tonight?
Absolutely disgusting.
You wearing your torn trousers?
I don't have torn trousers.
You have torn trousers.
What are you talking about?
You have a pair of trousers that are torn. You've caught your heel at the bottom of them. They're torn.
They're not torn.
They are.
What difference does it make if I was wearing torn trousers?
Because it shows that your mind is like your body and like your attire.
Really?
A scruffy mess.
Right. Well, you come in and look like a tramp every night. You've
Scruffy,
only got one look.
pitiful mess.
Yeah, you've only got one look.
You should be dragged through a car wash.
Yeah, well.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
There's nothing where you used to lie. The conversation has run dry. That's what's going on. Nothing's fine, I'm torn. I'm all out of faith. This is how I feel.
What? Who started now? They're playing a song called Torn.
Torn?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with it?
Oh, you accused me of having torn trousers.
Oh, yeah, you have. You have got torn trousers.
Well,
I saw them the other night. You did. You caught your heel in them, and they're ripped, and you're a scruff bag, and you shouldn't do it. Guess what I've just found out?
I'll tell you what, I got this from Andrew, first of all. I've
Right.
just realised that Man United won, and the other three FA Cup teams looked awful tonight. Hardly a fight. It's a good point, that.
Hang on, who did Watford play tonight?
Well, Watford played West Ham.
They lost
and
3-1.
Crystal Palace lost to Manchester United.
That's right, Manchester United
and Everton
won.
lost to Liverpool. So basically, United are the only team in the FA Cup semi-finals that won.
Yeah.
Good point, that. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No. Liverpool aren't in the FA Cup semi-finals.
Manchester United,
Manchester United
are the only one.
You said Liverpool, actually.
No, I said Manchester United.
No, you didn't. It was a slip of the tongue.
No,
you said
it wasn't.
Liverpool.
No, I said Manchester United.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Stop being so bloody grumpy
No,
and just get on with it.
No, I'm not. Now, listen, the audience don't want to hear anything more about Everton or Liverpool, so when we come back in a second or two, going to talk about real issues which are affecting real people in the real world.
Yeah, well, that would be good. I'm going to give you a big smack around the head with a large piece of wood
No,
to
you're
see
not.
if it has any effect on you.
You couldn't, mate. Honestly.
Really?
You can use army.
Yeah, well, I don't think I need an army.
Yeah, if you're brave enough.
Yeah, don't forget only 1/3 of your heart works, and you lost in the boxing competition, so I don't think you want to do that. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course, and we'll be reading a few texts and tweets out. But I'm being very cautious here because I'm trying not to annoy you anymore by reading out any more tweets about Everton.
Well, we don't need to. That's come and gone. We've got to move on. I want to tell you a story about a man who lived and died with the morals of an alley cat and the very, very sad end he came to. And his name was Fatty Arbuckle.
Fatty Arbuckle?
Fatty Arbuckle.
I've seen him in films.
You've seen him in films?
Yeah, he was in those old black and white films.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But
silent films were they, or not?
No, he did go into... Well, he was one of the original Keystone Cops. That's how he started on the screen. Yeah,
okay.
He was a Keystone Cop.
I used to watch the Keystone Cops.
You used to watch the Keystone Cops?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because I thought they were very funny. I remember going to the cinema with my dad.
Yeah.
We used to go and watch like old Laura and Hardy movies. There was
Yes.
a cinema in Hampstead that used to show all old black and white movies.
Yes.
And they'd have all those kinds of things on as well, because they were all quite short.
Yes.
Little sort of short films like
I have to
Keystone
admit, I
Cops,
thought
all
they
that.
were very funny as
They
well.
were.
Yeah, and Charlie Chaplin and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
Buster Keaton.
But the thing is, I've just come across a research paper on Fatty Arbuckle, because did you know he was sentenced to death?
No.
Right, well, I mean, it's a fantastic story, you see, but it's all because of his life lived under the rule of the morals of an alley cat that got him into terrible trouble.
Is that what he called it, or is that what you're calling it?
No, that's what I'm calling it.
Right.
You see, what happened was he was plucked out of the Keystone Cops as a guy who, although he was huge and fat, and this is why there are so many similarities between his life and yours, okay? Because he was he was huge and fat, but what
How
is
much
not
do you weigh again?
what is not similar between you and him? He was, by the way, 21 stone 7 pounds, which is quite heavy.
That's a lot heavier than me.
Okay, I'll accept that. But he was very nimble on his feet because he was a dancer. So he had this great presence on stage. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's plucked out of the Keystone Cops, and you won't believe this, but at the age of 26 in 1913. He started in the Keystone Cops. At 1921, he was taken out by Hollywood and given a contract worth, you won't believe this, in those days, $1 million.
Wow.
I mean, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was worth like $80 million today.
Yeah, I bet.
It was massive. Anyway, to celebrate this, right, and this was Paramount, you know, the studio.
Yeah.
To celebrate this, he gathered a few mates together. They got in a car, you know, such as there were cars in 1921.
Yeah.
And drove to San Francisco. And held a party in the St. Francis Hotel. Now, I've stayed in that hotel in San Francisco. There's two great hotels there, isn't there? Sir Francis Drake and the St. Francis, you know.
And Fairmont's quite a big one as
Fairmont's a big one as well, yeah. But anyway, on the way, they picked up a lady called Virginia Rapper.
Yeah.
And I would say that if you describe this lady as a lady of loose morals, right, you'd be about right, okay? And
why do you suddenly appoint yourself as the sort of moral, guardian of all people?
Because I've never indulged in this sort of behaviour.
Well, you've done nothing but to get involved with people who have been married all your life.
Anyway, listen, let's talk about Fatty Arbuckle, shall we?
All right, okay.
Anyway, they go into room 1219 in the St. Francis Hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, she described herself as a model and struggling actress.
Yeah.
Most people think she was a lady of the night, okay? A few minutes later, screams were heard. Guests rushed in to find Ms. Rapper, Virginia Rapper, fully dressed but writhing in pain on the bed. Arbuckle said he'd gone into the room after her and found her slumped drunk on the floor in the bathroom.
Yeah.
He carried her to the bed and she'd fallen off and started screaming.
Right.
But the terrified rapper said he did this to me. Anyway, her condition deteriorated. She was taken to hospital, and 3 days later, a friend who was another alleged lady of the night, Bambina Delmont, told doctors, she's told me she's been raped by Fatty Arbuckle. Right? I mean, it's a terrible story. A day later...
Not very cheery.
No, it's not. It's a shocking story. A day later, Rapper died from peritonitis.
Oh, right.
Now, that's blood poisoning.
It is, isn't it?
So that means that, you know, if in the course of a sexual assault he had physically violated her, you see what I mean? This is what could have happened.
Right.
Anyway...
And you're drawing some kind of comparison with me. I think that's a disgrace.
Well, you have such loose alley cat morals.
You're drawing a comparison with me. With someone who's been accused of a major crime.
Well, what I'm saying
who
is...
stood trial for a major crime.
What I'm saying
and who
is...
was sentenced to death for the manslaughter of a woman.
I'm not.
And you're saying that I've got some similarities with this guy.
I'm not.
I think that's absolutely appalling.
I'm not saying that you
lower than a snake's belly.
I'm not saying that you would murder or manslaughter anybody.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
What I'm saying is you follow the sort of lifestyle which could get you into big problems.
No, I think you've gone too far this time.
Anyway,
I think you made a mistake.
Anyway,
I think you may have to take all this back.
Anyway, morality groups demanded that old Fatty Arbuckle face the death penalty. Right?
Yeah.
He was.
I'm just reading here that he took a break from his hectic film schedule at one point because he was suffering from second-degree burns to both buttocks.
Exactly.
From an accident on set.
That's right, absolutely. Anyway, Arbuckle then was blacklisted by the whole of Hollywood, okay? Yeah. He was portrayed in the media as a fat brute. That's the way he was described in one newspaper.
And you're saying that we have similarities?
Yeah.
Don't you think you should start retracting
No, I think you are a fat brute. And it was said at his trial that he'd pinned down his prey and ruptured her bladder. Now, you know, that's a terrible accusation. His lawyers said that Rapper, the woman who died, was an alcoholic prostitute, and she'd had numerous abortions and she had venereal disease. I mean, it gets worse. The case against Arbuckle was flawed, not least because Delmont, she was the second lady, the friend of Rapper who's dead, had already been charged with numerous counts of extortion, bigamy, fraud and racketeering.
Sounds like a bad business altogether.
Well, she was known, you see, this is where I say you've got to be very careful with the sort of people you mix with, Mike. She was the sort of woman...
What do you think I'm mixed with?
She was the sort of woman who would get a man in a room and then a photographer would jump out of the wardrobe and take pictures and she'd then blackmail the guy because he was married or something like that, right?
Right, he wasn't married though, was he?
Fatty Arbuckle wasn't married, no, but that's what she was known for. She'd had several trials involving that sort of behaviour. And also, it became clear that Rapper, the lady who unfortunately died, was said to have suffered from persistent bladder problems for some years. Now, it later emerged in court that the prosecution had intimidated several witnesses to testify against Arbuckle. Even so, the actor was tried 3 times. First 2 cases were hung juries. A third trial in 1922, the jury took just a few minutes to acquit him, right?
Right.
He says acquittal is not enough. He says...
So he was never found guilty?
He was never found guilty. He said, I need a written apology to get myself back into Hollywood. It's been a grave injustice.
Yeah.
Despite this exoneration in a court of law, Arbuckle was frozen out of Hollywood. But this is the most tragic fact of the whole story I'm about to tell you now. In 1933, after years of being, blacklisted, Warner Brothers offered him a contract. And guess what happened then?
What happened then?
It was signed. He went home to celebrate with his 3rd wife, and he collapsed and died of a heart attack with the shock.
Of what? Getting acquitted?
Yeah, no, of getting a new contract in Hollywood.
Oh, right. Well, I still think that any kind of comparison...
46 years of age.
...with this guy who has had a clearly very
46 years of age.
Very unfortunate and tragic life, to try and compare him to me, even though I've already outlived him, even though I've never been in that kind of trouble in my life, I think it's absolutely despicable.
No, it's not, Mike, because Fatty Arbuckle is a warning to all people who live an alley cat morals type existence, which you do.
No, I don't.
Which you do, let's face it.
No, I don't.
That you can stumble into these dark areas which get you into terrible trouble.
As I've said to you, you're the one that commits adultery with other people's wives, not me. I don't do that.
No,
that's what you do.
No, you just commit adultery within your own marriage.
No, I'm not married.
Many times.
I'm not married.
But you did when you were.
When I was married, there were occasions where, yes, I did commit adultery.
No, many occasions, I'd say.
Well, it doesn't matter, though. You are not my judge. You are not my jury.
Well, don't be a judge on me, then.
I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that you put yourself up as some kind of moral arbiter when you are, in fact, lower than a snake. Because what you do is you mess around with other people's love lives.
I don't put myself as any moral arbiter. I'm merely commenting on if you play with fire, like Fatty Arbuckle's buttocks, you will get burnt.
Yes, indeed. Very, very true. Coming up, we've got Porkyvision a little bit later on. Also, we've got 3D printing to talk about. Do you understand anything about 3D printing?
No.
All right, because we're going to have somebody explain it to you. Mr. Derek Kennyville is going to be here, and he's going to be telling us exactly how they've managed to recreate the Palmyra Arch and put it up in Trafalgar Square. This is Talk Sport.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Fatty Arbuckle presses his knuckle into my noggin, gives me a flogging. Fatty Arbuckle releases a chuckle. I go for the ball bat before I recall that.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. People are very unhappy about your comparison. Matt says this. So Mike Parry's in a foul mood because Neverton are rubbish and then takes it out on Mike Graham. Have a word with yourself, Porky.
I didn't take it out on you at all.
Matty says it's shocking what Porky's comparing MG to. My respect for him has gone down a bit now.
What?
I think he needs to apologise.
What for?
Oh, quite right.
What for?
Well, for comparing me to some guy who's been up in court for a very, very serious crime.
Yeah, well, I mean, all I said was that I didn't accuse you of being a potential murderer or even a manslaughterist.
Manslaughterist?
Yeah.
How about this? Williams has got some advice for me. Time to get your lawyers together, MG, and get some of Porky's vast fortune off him after his remarks about you.
That's a bit
It's a good idea. Now, I've got one for you, actually, because I saw this on the news yesterday.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether you knew about it or whether, if you did know about it, you were involved in it.
Right.
Did you see that somebody delivered a petition to Downing Street yesterday calling for new laws providing better standards of care for monkeys kept as pets in the UK. And knowing as I do...
but I mean, I'm with it on that one.
This is the people at Monkey World. Do you remember when we were down in Bournemouth?
Yeah.
And you were carousing with that guy's wife inside Bubbles, the drinking establishment at Bournemouth Football Club.
Yes.
And she was hugging you and kissing you and all that kind of thing.
Well, I can't help being attractive to women.
You know, because obviously, you don't get involved in the morals of an alley cat type behaviour. I presume you didn't take it any further. However, she invited you to Monkey World, didn't she?
Why?
Because it's down in Dorset.
No, but I mean, does she run it or something?
Well, no, but she knows that you have a great interest in monkeys.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
So you claim.
Well, of course I do.
I mean, you're supposed to be trying to free Tommy the Chimp.
Of course I am.
How's that going?
It's going well.
Is it?
It's going well.
Is he still in captivity?
Yes, but they're making progress.
And then there's the other one that's on an island somewhere off the coast of West Africa, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Is he still there?
He's still there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this petition was handed in by the director of Monkey World, Dr. Alison Cronin, the musician Peter Gabriel, who you might know. And South Dorset MP Richard Drax.
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased.
And basically what they want is that same standards of care in zoos and wildlife parks should be applied to households. But what I didn't know was how many of these cases there are, that there are so many people in this country who have got monkeys as pets.
How many?
It says here that there's hundreds of them. Many well-meaning but ignorant people are buying these wild animals at vast expense from unscrupulous breeders, animal dealers and pet shops, and are taking advantage and telling people it's okay to keep a monkey in solitary confinement in a bird cage in their sitting room.
Oh, that's horrible.
Isn't that horrendous?
That's horrendous. Utterly horrendous. If I saw that, I'd break into the house and free the monkey.
100 primates from the British pet trade have been rescued by Monkey World.
Oh, that's good.
So they say that they think there might be as many as 10 times that number.
Well, that's only 1,000.
Well, it's 1,000 monkeys,
Well,
though.
I agree. It's
only 1,000. You're supposed to be the animal's friend.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to tell me there were tens of thousands. I mean, if it's only 1,000 across Britain when we've got 70 million people here, that's not a lot.
Well, I think the point is they don't know.
Well, I have to say, it is a matter of concern.
You're banging on about two monkeys.
No, it is a matter of concern.
Two monkeys in the world
that
you're trying to rescue.
Yes.
But you've had absolutely no success rescuing.
So
I'm telling you there could be 50 times that number in this country who need looking after.
What are we protesting for? Some legislation to regulate the keeping of monkeys in captivity?
Yes.
Well, I think we need it. I totally agree.
For example, there are already rules in place for zoos and rules in place for, different sort of wildlife parks.
Monkeys are intelligent. We don't want them in cages.
But there's no rules in place. If you went out tomorrow, found somebody to sell you a monkey, and you took it home and just put it in your garage.
That's horrible.
There's no rules as to what you're meant to do with it.
That's horrible. I mean, I could have a relationship with an orangutan without a shadow of a doubt.
Could you?
Well, they're very intelligent creatures, aren't they?
Well, it's all comparative, I suppose.
They mimic human behaviour and all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad you pointed that out, actually, because that is something I will turn my attention to.
Well, maybe you could sign the petition. It's 110,000 signatures.
I will.
Already.
I will. I'll get that petition. I'll sign it.
I'll send the story to you so you can read it.
Today is a great day, not just because it's the 90th birthday of our glorious monarch, but guess who lost his life on this day today in the great circumstances?
Who lost his life?
Yeah.
How is anybody dying make something a great day?
Well, it was brilliant. I'm talking about the Red Baron.
The Red Baron.
Yeah. You know his name was Manfred von Richthofen.
He was the First World War sort of German super
the
pilot.
German ace. Yeah. But do you know how he actually died? It's a brilliant story.
Was he not shot down?
No, he wasn't actually. What happened was he was flying around over the Somme, the Battle of the Somme. That was a terrible one. And he'd already...
Well, not many great ones, really, are there?
No, there aren't. He was known as the Ace of Aces. He was, 80 Allied kills, OK. And over this air battle in the Somme, you won't believe it, but a soldier on the ground, one of ours, raised his rifle and fired at the Red Baron's plane.
Right.
And
which was like a biplane, wasn't it?
It was a biplane, absolutely right. It had an open cockpit, OK? So the Red Baron, that's Manfred von Richthofen, cops for a bullet through the neck.
Yeah.
But he manages to land his plane back at his German airfield.
Right.
So he lands, and, all these guys...
Severely wounded, presumably.
Severely wounded, and I know I shouldn't be laughing, but...
Why is it that people's misfortune always makes you chuckle?
No, because...
I don't understand it.
What happens is, this is the end of the Red Baron. He's a legendary figure.
Yeah.
So he lands his plane and jump, he chugs up to his parking spot.
Right.
Jump. Right. And all these guys...
You say the opposite of chocks away, presumably.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever that is.
Well, I was just going to tell you what he said, his last words. And all these guys with silk scarves rush out, as they do, to turn the plane round and refuel it for another mission, thinking he was come down to land and refuel.
After another success.
Yeah, but when they turned the plane around, his last words were, I cannot fly again. And when they all said, why not?
Did he say it in a broken English-German accent?
I don't know. But this is serious. He said, I cannot fly again. In German, presumably.
Yeah, presumably.
And they said, why? Well, Baron, what is wrong with you? And his last words on earth were, I am kaput. And he died.
Or at least he said whatever the German is for I am.
No, it was kaput.
Ich bin kaput
Yeah,
or
ich
something.
bin kaput.
Right.
Yeah. Ich bin kaput.
Yeah, well, I suppose you would say that.
Off the chair,
You nearly went off the chair.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you would say that, but it is quite a sort of defining moment, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you think then when the last third of my heart goes, mate, and I'm suddenly bang, I go down?
I think those would be good. That would be good last words, wouldn't they?
Well, even if they're not, tell people they were, will you, for me? You know.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah, I spoke. He slipped away. He said, "I'm kaput."
But I mean, as much as these things are tragic, you can see where the funny side is. I mean, there was a terrible story. You don't remember? It was an old colleague of ours who was the namesake of another colleague of ours. I'm not going to give his name out because he's still got family working in the business. But he died on a mountain up in Scotland.
Oh, he fell off the mountain.
He fell off the mountain.
I know him.
And well, don't give his name away.
Why not?
Because he's still got family working in the business. I mean,
Oh,
I
has
don't
he?
necessarily
Okay,
say that.
yeah.
But I mean, his last words to
I know
his
his
brother
last words,
were,
yeah.
"I'm going."
No, I'm
Literally,
going now.
Yeah, I'm going. Literally, as his hands let go of the rock that he was holding onto, and he fell to his death.
He
Terrible. Absolutely awful.
he had a Scottish spelt name, didn't he?
He did.
Yes, that's right. And I remember reading it, and it was quite amusing because those were his last.
He was actually the reason I went to America, or one of the reasons I went to America.
Oh, why?
Because
he asked you to do it for them.
Well, no, he didn't.
The Mail on Sunday.
No, he didn't. No, but he used to play golf quite a bit, and I was playing golf with him.
Right.
And I was telling him how difficult it was to get a job in Fleet Street.
Yeah.
And, nobody was making any. There was loads of people giving shifts away.
Yeah.
But nobody was giving any. And he said, "Why don't you think about going to work in New York?"
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd really thought about it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know who I'd work for. And he was the one that suggested working for the Star.
Right.
Not the English Star, but the American Star.
Yeah.
And we had this whole conversation about it. And it was down to him, really, at the beginning, that I came up with the idea.
His idea. Yeah, you stole his idea.
No,
yeah,
I didn't steal
right,
it. He suggested to me, because he knew that I was a fine, up-and-coming young talent.
And
he thought I'd be wasted sitting around on a taxi rank in London.
Anyway, the report of this gentleman's death was very appealing because he was such a gentleman. His last words were, "I'm going now," as he slipped away. But according to an eyewitness report, he didn't say it with any sense of,
no,
I'm going
that's
now.
what I mean.
He just
was very
said,
calm.
It was a bit like Captain Oates leaving the tent. I'm
Very
going
calm.
outside now.
Yeah.
I may be some time.
You see, I don't think you would go that way. I think if it was you, you would be very melodramatic about it. I mean, look how melodramatic you've been tonight.
What?
You would be so melodramatic.
I haven't been melodramatic.
No, you have.
No,
and
I've been factual.
you've always been very melodramatic about, when you were 36 hours from death and all that. I mean, you would make such a meal of it that people would be bored stiff listening to you. Because your last words would probably go on forever.
I've been factual. Tell you what I found out for you today in one of my health journals, right?
Yeah.
10 reasons why you should be nice.
Well, why don't you project that one onto yourself?
Well, I don't have to. Because I'm.
Well, you're
aware
the
of
one
it.
that people are accusing of being horrible.
I'm going to tell you all about that in a minute or two.
All right.
About 10 reasons why it's so good to be nice. Make your life better by being nice to other people. No, you're not.
I'm very nice to other
you're
people.
Cynical.
Do you know what I did the other day?
Cynical and calculating
Do you know what
to
I did
most
the other
people.
Day?
What?
I helped an elderly lady with her bag up a set of stairs.
You what?
Isn't that nice?
What did you do?
I carried her bag up a set of stairs.
What set of stairs?
It was a set of stairs on the underground.
Well, sorry, what's all this about? What are you talking about?
You're saying I'm not nice to people.
No.
I carried a woman's bag up the stairs for her.
Okay, well,
because she was struggling with it.
The last time I helped a lady with a bag, I carried 3 of her bags upstairs myself.
Of course you'd
I
have
put
to
one
top,
on my back. I'm not joking.
To top the story.
It was a huge, like...
Where did you do this?
East Croydon Station.
What were you doing there?
Well, I'd got a train down there because I was on my way down there to see somebody.
Where are the stairs at East Croydon Station?
Well,
there aren't any.
Yes, they
are.
are.
There's a ramp there.
No.
Yeah, you walk up a ramp.
No, these were stairs
East
to get
Croydon
from...
Station is a ramp.
No, these were stairs, believe me.
I don't have to believe you because I don't believe you because there's a ramp.
There's a ramp at the top end of the platform. At the bottom end of the platform, there are stairs up to a walkway that goes over the top.
You're making it up.
No, I'm not.
I don't believe you.
No, I don't make it up.
Anyway, you can tell me about why you should be nice to people. Coming up next on Talk Sport. Actually, we'll be talking to our 3D man next. So you have to do it after that.
Okay.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
Sport, we are the two Mikes. Porkyvision coming up a little bit later on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to give any tips or clues away as to what you're going to be talking about yet, or is a teaser too much?
Okay, I will. I'll give you a teaser.
Go on.
It involves an actor who's been involved in a scandal involving a vicar's wife this week.
Me. Oh. Right, I know who you mean.
The vicar's wife,
I know who you mean. Well, I'm not going to say the name.
No, don't say the name.
Give it away.
Don't say the name.
Because before we get to that, of course, and all that sort of tawdriness, we want to talk about 3D printing.
Of course we do.
I've got a sneaking suspicion that, I don't think we're giving any secrets away by saying, technology is not your strong point. And, I mean, I would like to think I'm relatively...
Certainly not your strong point.
Well, I'm slightly more au fait with, modern technology than you are, but what I struggle with is how on earth 3D printing actually works. So, we're going to ask Derek Kenneville, who is a 3D printer and digital fabrication artist, exactly how you could actually recreate something as complicated as the Palmyra Arch of Triumph.
That's right.
Derek, a very good morning to you.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very well
well,
indeed.
thank you.
Forgive the slightly long-winded introduction. You have to imagine you're dealing with a guy to my right here who struggles with Twitter.
Technophobe.
So, a bit of a technophobe. Doesn't really know how to switch his television on and make it record a programme that he hasn't been able to watch from the night before. So 3D printing has now become something almost commonplace, hasn't it? And I became drawn to this story because I watched a TV report about how this was replicated, this particular Palmyra Arch. And not only was it replicated in marble, but it was replicated the way that it had been just before it was destroyed, i.e. not as it was when it was originally made, but with all the little bits missing.
Complete with cobwebs.
Cobwebs, with little bits of moss in it. I mean, can you just explain in sort of words of one syllable how you're doing this?
Sure. When you want to recreate something that exists in the real world, you can do it kind of one of two ways. You could start with a digital sculpture where you kind of draw something on the computer out of kind of a digital clay.
Right.
Or you can do something like they did with the arch there, which is to take a series of overlapping photographs. If you have enough photographs that cover the full geometry of an object, the computer can turn that into a full three-dimensional model that can then be recreated using digital fabrication technologies like 3D printing.
Right. And the materials that you can then reproduce it in come how exactly? Because I was watching a piece of film which looked like a sort of spray gun effect was being used. And so the creation of the object itself was almost coming out of what looked like a liquid gun. But presumably that wasn't... The end result was obviously marble.
Right. So in this case, it was sort of a reverse of 3D printing. They used a subtractive technology. So they took existing blocks of marble and used a kind of a robotic drill to cut away the unnecessary parts of the object, and they assembled that. But that organization that did that, they have a giant 3D printer that can print concrete. Basically, by shooting out one layer of it at a time, you can slowly build up an object from nothing.
I find that amazing.
Yeah. Now, Derek, I need more explanation on this, please, because I am a technophobe. When we read stories that criminals can now produce a gun on a 3D printer, OK, what they really mean is that they can produce the overlapping images of how a gun is made, but then surely somebody else with different skills has to go and get the metal and shape it and form it into the actual physical product, which is a gun, don't they?
Right. So in that case, if you have a complex mechanical object, you would usually draw it from scratch on the computer using like very precise digital tools. But in the case of guns specifically, I believe we've mostly seen people kind of fabricating these plastic weapons that are not very reliable. Exactly. Like it would be cheaper and more reliable to just get an illegal gun the normal way, frankly.
But where does the plastic model come from? Where does the fulfilment of this? Is this same machine, the 3D printer, also got a source of plastic which is then shaped into the shape that the computer, the 3D image, has fulminated?
What?
Right. With that specific 3D printing technology, you basically have a spool of a plastic thread.
Right.
So if you imagine how a glue gun works, where you're kind of pushing in a material that gets melted, it's the same thing. Like a desktop 3D printer is basically a fancy glue gun that shoots out plastic instead of glue.
Right.
So it'll shoot out one layer of melted plastic. It'll move up and draw another layer of melted plastic on top of that. And by repeating that over and over, you get a full object.
And when was it discovered that 3D printing was something that could become so kind of versatile, if you like? I mean, presumably the idea of it's been around for a while, but for it to now become almost commercially viable, if you like, when did people realise that this could all be done?
Yeah, so it was it was in the mid-1980s when 3D printing was first invented. But what happened was all of that stuff was covered under patents and controlled by just a couple of companies. So 20 years later, when the patents started to expire, that's when hobbyists came along and said, this doesn't have to cost $50,000 or $1 million for a giant machine. We could do this much more cheaply.
Right.
And it kind of built up from there.
Okay.
So now what I'm saying is, Derek, that if we can actually build an arch from a 3D printer, in future, when you buy yourself a new house and there's nothing in that house, there's no furniture in that house, don't you just get a machine and design your own chairs, your own tables, your own cupboards, and just program them into the 3D printer, and suddenly they make them for you?
Yeah, I think we could get to that eventually. There's already a construction company in China that uses recycled construction waste and concrete to 3D print the walls of a house that are kind of lifted into place.
So, I mean, basically, if you have a 3D printer, presumably they come in different sizes and they have different materials.
This one was like a JCB road trip.
I mean, and this is really not, I guess, a question for you, but you are a digital fabrication artist, so presumably you create original art. My worry about watching this report that I saw was they were saying, they can recreate now the pyramids, they could recreate Chichen Itza, they could recreate almost any sculpture of Rodin or anything like that. I mean, in a way, it's just like a copy of a painting, isn't it?
In some ways, but you can't go into a museum and touch any of the sculptures or the paintings on display. So if you're able to 3D print it, people can have a more hands-on relationship with art. But it's not the art, though, is it? It's a copy. That was my slight sort of reservation, I suppose. Yeah, it does bring up some interesting questions about how to perceive the value of something that's come out of a 3D printer, for sure.
Yeah, because, I mean, for example, if you wanted to, I don't know, for whatever reason, recreate Rodin's The Kiss and make 2,000 of them on a 3D printer and sell them all for, $5,000 each, would that not diminish the original piece of art?
For me personally, I don't think so. Although some people might say that you have the example of the statue of David, which has been 3D scanned in great detail. But if you want to have access to that data, you have to basically fill out an essay and a non-disclosure agreement.
Oh, really?
To preserve what they say is the dignity of the piece.
Right.
I see.
But could you not just go to where the statue of David is, take a load of pictures of it, and recreate it without asking anyone's permission?
Not at a high enough quality for people to say, "Oh, that's just like the original."
Okay.
Can I ask you this, Derek? I had a friend once when I worked in.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, when I worked in the English Midlands, and it was very close to Stratford-upon-Avon, which is the home of William Shakespeare. And this friend of mine used to make a living by knocking together phony antique furniture and selling it to gullible American tourists, and I'm not suggesting that you're one of those, obviously, and tell them it was genuine Shakespearean furniture. And when they went back, yeah, and when they went back to Chicago, he suddenly got a load of orders from all their friends in Chicago saying he got any more Shakespearean furniture.
Yeah.
So he'd knock a bit more together and he'd send that to them. He'd ship it out to them.
Yeah, that's illegal, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, presumably with a 3D printer machine, that would make his job of knocking together fake furniture a lot easier, wouldn't it?
The process is slow enough that it probably wouldn't be commercially viable to do bootleg furniture that way.
Oh,
it's typical of you as well to think of an illegal method of making money.
I'm only citing an example of what a mate of mine used to do. You know, I mean, I didn't approve of it, obviously, but you know.
So, Derek, you might think we haven't really got anywhere with this conversation, but I think we've learned something. I mean,
we have.
What do you, I mean, will it be the case in, say, I don't know, the next 10 years that we are all, as we now have laptops, we'll have access to some kind of 3D printer just because it will be the norm?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we'll necessarily all have them in our homes,
right?
Because we don't all need to run them 24/7. But for sure, we'll be able to walk over to the library or a local makerspace and use one. Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, that's great.
Fascinating. Well, listen, Derek, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Derek Kenneville there, 3D printing expert and digital fabrication artist.
Yeah, excellent.
See, I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, Mike, this 3D printer still has to be connected to a machine that supplies the materials that are going to make the object that you're 3D printing.
Sure.
I mean, it's not just, you know, like we've got printers out here at Talk Sport. Well, you can't suddenly,
We're lucky if they work at all.
Put a photocopy of a painting into the top of the machine and the painting comes out the bottom.
No.
Unless it's connected to something that's producing wood and canvas and paint and oils and all that.
As you know, I mean, you can recreate a painting with the right technology. If you've got the right computer graphics, if you've got the right...
Yeah, but the frame it goes in and everything.
Yeah, but you can recreate all of that on a 3D printer. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but then that 3D printer has done the graphics, but it has to put the graphics into a machine that has solid materials in it to produce the object.
Well, you heard what he said. They can either carve marble or they can push out plastic or they can push out any number of different materials.
Yeah, but somebody's got to produce the marble and stick it there like a block of marble, and then the 3D printer then instructs the carving machine how to make the arch. Yeah,
but it's still making the arch. That's the point.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I think we should talk some more about this coming up in the coming months.
No, we've talked enough.
No, but I want to educate you on it because I think it's time.
I don't need educating.
You need educating about a great many things. I thought you were going to tell me about why it's good to be nice. You can do that next.
I will in a minute.
On Talk Sport.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long. And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of world?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Coming up in the next hour, it's time for the Porkyvision, of course, and it's going to feature somebody who's been involved in some Rogerisation, so you can look out for that. It
certainly is.
Now, I'm sorry to tell you that there are one or two tweets coming in which are at different things, but have still got references to Everton, so I'm going to have to read them out anyway. Moz says this, maybe you can get a 3D printer...
Sorry, who's this guy? What's this guy's name?
Moz.
Moz, daft name.
Is it? You don't like the name Moz?
Anyway, go on,
M-O-Z, it's spelled. He says, you can get a 3D printer for my work for £250, and maybe you can make a new John Stones.
That's
quite good, isn't it?
Oh, and, that's hilarious.
Steve says, surely there's only one fabrication expert, MG, the plank sitting in the studio with you.
Oh, really?
Hashtag Porky Journals.
Oh, really? That's very nice,
it doesn't surprise me that you alone came up with the possibility that the best use for a 3D printer would be to make dodgy fake furniture to sell to gullible Americans.
No, I didn't. I was merely illustrating, what I thought could be a future use for it.
I think Derek was a bit embarrassed.
Well, I think he was a bit embarrassed, but I mean, I can't help having friends who were into that sort of thing many years ago. Not that I had anything to do with it, obviously.
Yeah. And Gemma sent a very funny picture of a 3D printed version of David that didn't work out quite as well as the original, which is quite funny. Because, I presume you could get it wrong, couldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose so, if you don't program your computer right.
You were trying to explain it to me earlier.
Yes.
And, I find your explanation of it baffling.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but I mean, that's the only way...
Tell me again how it works.
Well, how I think it works... When I first read about this, I thought, what, they've invented a printer which looks like a printer, but you can actually manufacture a plastic gun from it. That was the original one I ever read about a year ago, right? And I thought, and then the gun suddenly comes out of the exit bit of the machine where you would normally get photocopies.
Well, so instead of paper coming out?
Yeah, instead of paper coming out, your gun comes out, right?
A gun?
Yeah, and I thought, how can this happen? Now, what I think is the situation now is, I think you have a laptop in which you access the prints for the two-dimensional prints of how a gun is made, and then the three-dimensional ones, and then I think you lay them all down on top of each other, you know what I mean? Like the graphics, and you then feed that into your printer computer, but that then must be linked to what you call an inkjet machine,
But you can't make a gun that actually fires bullets, can you? You can just make a gun that looks like a gun.
Yeah, well, it's an imitation gun, which prisoners can use to threaten guards to get out of jail. You see what I mean?
A plastic gun.
Yeah, this is the whole idea.
The guards have to be pretty gullible, wouldn't they?
No, they wouldn't, because how do they know? If somebody's pointing a gun at you and says, open that door, I'll shoot you, you don't spend a lot of time debating whether it's a real gun or a false gun, because it might be a real gun.
Maybe.
So what I'm saying is that
But where do the prisoners get the 3D printer from?
Well, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. The laptop is connected to the printer, but the printer then feeds the information into a machine that literally can invent objects through having a plastic injection system.
Well, so the printer's not printing anything then?
Well,
by your system?
No, the printer is just sending information to a third machine. The third machine is a big vat of liquid plastic.
So that's not a printer, the third machine?
Well, of course it's not. It's a vat of plastic. How else do you get a solid object?
Well, I don't know, because it seems to me...
I'm trying to explain to you.
Well, yeah, but
you're acting stupid again and saying, no, it's not a printer.
No, because I don't think you're right, because I think, why would you call something a 3D printer if it doesn't actually print anything?
So you think that the plastic gun comes out of the printer where the paper comes out?
That's what a 3D printer is, yeah.
Well, where is the plastic that's used to make the object?
That's why I'm baffled by that.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm explaining to you how I believe it works.
I mean, Ray says this. They use 3D printers in medicine too, which I know about. He says they can reproduce body parts, including hearts for transplants, which might interest Porky. So, I mean, you could actually make a heart now, for example, and they're talking about body parts.
So the heart comes out of the machine?
Yeah. Yes.
What is the heart made of?
I don't know.
Well, you're not answering many questions here, I'm afraid.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm not an expert.
I mean, you're telling me like there is human flesh inside a machine, and it produces a heart.
Well, I don't know.
Well, it's ridiculous. It's stupid.
There could be a human flesh.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it's better to be nice than not nice. Okay, in life.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this study. Right.
I'll only allow you to tell me about this if you will agree to accept some of the tenets of the suggestions.
Well, you can put them back to me. Okay.
All right.
Right. The 10 reasons why you should be nice. Miserable people die sooner.
Yeah, that's probably true.
30-year study into happiness, immortality. The University
I've always believed that.
Found that miserable people 14% more likely to have died.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get 14% of your life knocked off if you're miserable. Right. Second one, happiness makes you more attractive to the opposite sex.
Yes, I think that's true.
Or same sex if you want to see people of the same sex. Right. The third one. Happy people have healthier hearts, literally.
Yes. Well, that's why you're miserable, isn't it?
20-year study following more than 6,000 men and women revealed that having emotional vitality gives you a lower risk of coronary heart disease.
That's true.
Fourth one, you remain virus-free if you're a nice person.
Yeah. I very rarely get ill.
Link between emotions and viral infections of the respiratory tract is higher in miserable people.
Yes, I think that's right.
Fifth one, helping others can beat stress within yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So being nice to others actually...
All of these things I agree with wholeheartedly.
Actually releases endorphins in your body. It makes you feel better. The sixth
Releases
one...
what?
Endorphins in your body. It makes you feel better.
You mean endorphins?
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. The sixth one, enjoying company is as good as exercise.
Yes, that's true too.
So when you're in a happy bunch of people all laughing and shouting...
Which you hate.
No, I don't.
I
don't. Well, I don't
You don't like being out with people.
I don't like bores.
But you don't like anyone.
I don't like boring,
you don't like anyone.
half-bakes. I don't like mixing with them.
You don't like mixing with anyone.
The sixth one, enjoying company is good as exercise. I've told you about that, yeah. It can help you lose weight, actually. It stirs up your metabolism to be talking with friends.
Yeah.
Saying thank you matters a great deal. US psychologists say that those who wrote about gratitude feel more optimistic in life.
Yes.
The eighth one... If you are miserable and depressed, you should try volunteering to help others. It makes you feel better.
I'm sure that's true too.
Ninth one, a good attitude speeds up recovery.
Yeah.
309 patients due to have heart surgery measured their optimism, depression and self-esteem beforehand. In the 6 months post-surgery, optimists improved their health 1/3 more quickly than pessimists. And the 10th one, smiling actually takes years off the ageing process in your face.
Well, that's why my face is very, very young.
A happy smile can make you look younger.
Yeah.
Study has revealed 2,000 volunteers, 12 women, pictured looking happy, neutral and sad. A smile knocked an average of 2 years off the women's real age.
I'll tell you some more about this in a moment because we just have to stop here for 1 second. But, I mean, I've always said that I'm a much happier person than you are and you're a much more miserable person than I am. And that's why
I don't know what you base that on.
Well, I'll tell you what I base that on.
You malign me like that.
No, it's not true. You don't like... I mean, we'll go through all those things one by one and I'll show you exactly why you are. This is Talk Sport.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Happiness, happiness, the greatest gift that I possess. I thank the Lord that I've been blessed with more than my share of happiness.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Coming up, Porkyvision in the next hour, of course. Lots of really helpful tweets on 3D printing. Michael has actually sent you a YouTube clip
that's very
saying
kind.
that you can watch this, and it explains how 3D printing works.
Is that right?
For the hard of thinking. He says, such as myself. Moz says, did Porky not see the duck that got new feet from a 3D printer? There was that story the other day.
Yeah,
wasn't
I
there?
saw that. Yeah, but the little duck, they were plastic. Yeah, they were plastic.
Yeah,
well, that sounds like a very basic use. What we're getting hung up on is what you've just said. The word printer.
Yeah.
They're not actually printers. They're machines which pull matter together, aren't they?
I guess so, yeah. And they make what is on your computer screen.
Yeah.
D says 10 reasons to be nice. So why is Mr. Nice wanting to make 3D guns? Why not make something nice?
Yeah, well, because I read that prisoners got hold of one of these machines and can actually fashion a. And the other great thing about a ceramic gun, by the way, is that the particles to make the gun can be smuggled in by visitors because they're not detected by a metal detector because they're ceramic.
Oh, ceramic guns, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, those are being used quite a lot, actually, in various places. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is not good.
Yes.
Now, the reason I was going to we haven't got a lot of time here, but the reason I was going to say, you've always said to me that you don't particularly want to have a lot of friends, you don't like hanging around with an awful lot of people.
No, I've never said that. I just said that I don't like tolerating,
but you're not,
dumb oafs.
But you're not a particularly happy person, though, are you?
I am a very happy person.
Well, you're not very happy tonight.
Yes.
I mean, you haven't been, when you say to me, if you do this, do that, you'll live longer. All of those things, those 10 recommendations, I would say that I do. I would say that I do all of those.
Here's a picture of East Croydon Station with the sets of stairs that go to its new bridge, okay?
Oh, yeah.
You got it?
Is that where you did it?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay, I've never been at that end of the station.
No, of course you haven't, but you said it didn't exist.
No, I didn't believe it did.
Well, it does exist.
Okay.
Okay, you all right?
Well, that means. Well, that doesn't mean that your story's true, though.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Well, why does it mean?
And that was sent to me by.
When did you do this?
That was sent to me.
Act of courage
by a very kind. It's Ian. Ian sent it, and he says, "Here you go, Porky. Show the oaf. That's you. East Croydon Station."
You see, you always have to be nasty.
Yeah, because you try to make me out to be an idiot when I tell you things I've done.
Well, no, because every time
I've just proved to you there are stairs at East Croydon Station.
It's part of your unhappiness.
You dumb cough.
Every time I tell you that I've done something, you have to go, oh yeah, I did the same thing, except I carried 3 bags.
I did.
You're like the liar from the vids.
No.
Larry the liar.
No.
That's what your name is. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, and of course, on the occasion of the Queen's 90th birthday, which Porky pointed out earlier, the Porky quiz this week, tomorrow night, will be on the Queen.
It will be, indeed.
The independent quizmasters are busy working away on that.
That's great. I've been a lifelong admirer of the Queen. I feel that, and part of my reporting life was spent on royal affairs, as were all of ours, because it was such a big thing in our lives. So I'm looking forward and confidently forward.
Well, you'd be
to
disappointed
that quiz.
if you die without having ever been honoured by the Queen.
I would love to be honoured for service to my country.
Would you?
In fact,
what do you think you'd get honoured for?
Well, I've told you before, if there was a time machine, I'd only go back as far as 1939, and I would be an RAF Spitfire pilot going down and shooting Messerschmitts out of the sky to protect this country.
Wouldn't you rather go back and not have the war happen at all?
No, I would want to be part of a generation which, rallied to the cause for its country at its greatest hour of need.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I want to tell you about, right?
Yeah, can I just read you a couple of tweets?
Of course
first?
you can.
Here's one from Steve. I'm going to get a third of a heart 3D printed. It's obviously working for Porky. Hashtag ask Banner is fake. I'm not buying one.
Yeah.
And then here's one from Jim who says, so people who go out with friends are happier than those who sit around in their pants eating beetroot or watching Corrie in their flats. Well, I think you're saying that's a bit obvious, really.
Yeah. Listen, what you say about that and those friends and all that, I came across a study, right, for which I feel great sympathy, but doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Now, you may have seen it. The reports were actually in yesterday morning's newspapers. It says that being lonely is as bad as having heart disease, right? Now, did you see that?
Yeah, well, I mean, people do say, and you quite often see cases of this, don't you, where a married couple who have been particularly close for many, many years, when one spouse dies, the other often dies very soon thereafter.
That's right. Now,
almost of a broken heart.
Now, I have great sympathy for this. Listen to this, Mike, and I'm being serious here.
Yeah.
Loneliness increases the risk of a heart attack or stroke by almost a third, according to research. The effect of social isolation is similar to that of anxiety or work-related stress, according to a major review of the evidence, OK? And just very briefly, analysed data on more than 181,000 people found being lonely and isolated raised the chance of heart disease by 29%. Now, that's terrible.
It is.
Now, can I tell you, sometimes when I'm out shopping in Morrison's or something like that, or Waitrose or wherever, if I see an old lady and she's at the checkout and she's got maybe 5 little objects or 6 or something like that, and she pays for each one out of her pension money or something like that, puts them in her bag, and then she toddles off. I feel immensely sorry if she's going home to an empty house, right?
Well, she probably is. 9 times out of 10.
OK, and I feel a sense of real sorrow for people who live like that because they feel loneliness. Now, I know you're going to start mocking me and all this, but I don't feel...
Why do you think I would mock you?
No, I don't feel loneliness. I don't feel loneliness. I don't know why. It's just that...
There might be a time in your life when you do that.
Maybe there will be, but it certainly doesn't affect me at the moment. And one of the reasons for that is I try to make my life so busy.
Well, that's right.
And if your life is busy, then you don't feel...
But that's partly why you make your life busy, so you don't want to feel lonely.
But I know people throughout my life... I know, men and women, maybe women in particular, who cannot stand the thought of being on their own, even for a couple of hours.
That's right.
I mean, I know blokes who, once a relationship is finished, are so desperate to get into another one because they simply cannot bear to be. I know one bloke, right, who's a friend of mine, had a nice country house and all that. Things went wrong with his wife. He moved out and he moved into a rented flat.
Yeah.
And he seriously became incredibly depressed and withdrawn because he couldn't stand going home to that flat at night, so he took to drink. Yeah. He'd rather go into a pub
part of the problem
full of people he didn't know.
Yeah, but part of the problem with a lot of that, when people break up and the wife gets the house or the man gets the house, whoever gets the house, I mean, you don't just miss the person, you also miss the lifestyle. You miss the fact that you had a big house. You miss the fact that even though you didn't like the person that was living in the house with you, you actually quite liked being there.
But the other end of the social scale to that is you take Christmas or something like that, and I always feel incredibly sad for apparently there are literally hundreds of thousands of older people now who wake up on Christmas Day on their own. The day's no different to any other. Yeah. And they they're staring at 4 walls. They switch on the telly to try.
I think that's the thing. And I think in later life,
and I think that's terrible.
Yeah, but I think in later life, either because maybe your partner's died or your children have moved away or whatever it is. It's when you don't maybe have a job because you've retired that it becomes extra lonely because you just have nobody to see. You have no reason to go out. You have no reason to talk to anyone.
Take my old mum. She worked until she was 73 in Debenhams, right? And then, time just caught up and one day, she had the conversation with the people there and said thank you very much and all that. And she found it incredibly difficult to adjust.
That was their decision rather than hers.
It was their decision because, she was of a certain age and that sort of thing. She was very good at her job. That's why they kept her on so long after the normal retirement age for a woman of 60, But it took a very long time to adjust, and now she's got a full life and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is that although I can understand the distress and the despair of loneliness, I don't know why I don't suffer from it myself. If I woke up on Christmas Day on my own...
But maybe you do suffer from it, but you don't realise.
No, I don't. And luckily I've got a big extended family of sisters and nephews and nieces, and my mum's still around, brothers-in-laws and all that. We all get together at Christmas and Easter and that kind of stuff. I simply don't suffer it, but I feel terrible for those people who find this aching loneliness. I do.
Well, what do you do about it?
Well, what can I do about it? What can I do about it?
You could ask the woman if she'd like some company. Well, you could ask her to go around once a week and have a chat to her.
I can't.
Why not?
Well, because I don't feel loneliness. One reason I don't is because I'm a bit of an isolationist.
You don't like people.
A bit of a misanthrope,
you just don't like people. Yeah, you don't like people.
Well, it's not that I don't like people, but I mean, surely if I have the ability to exist on my own, then one fallout position from that is that I don't want to be with other people, if you see what I mean.
I'll tell you what was funny about the
But
bag.
And one of the charities I give to is Age Concern, to try and help...
How much do you give them?
Well, I give them...
£100 a year?
No, it's more than that, but I don't know how much it is. It's per month.
You don't know how much it is?
I think it's about £30 a month.
Really?
Yeah, I think
so that's about £360 a year?
Yeah.
Or thereabouts?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's very generous of you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to try and help people. But you can't solve everything
with money. They don't want your money. They want your time and they want your voluntary work. Like one of the things that it said there, which would make you happy, volunteer and go and help some people. You make yourself feel better and it helps a lot of other people as well.
I can't do that. I'd
Why
like
not?
to do.
You've got loads of time. I mean, you spend 14 hours a day doing paperwork. work, you were telling me.
Well,
why don't you take out 2 hours of the day and go and entertain a couple of elderly people?
You've just agreed with me. I have a very full life, right? I'm busy most of the time doing things.
But I don't know what you do, because you never tell me.
Well, it's none of your business. A lot of the stuff I do, you're involved in, you know, when we are organising live theatre shows, when we're organising, making videos and all that kind of stuff. So, but other things that I have to do are my own responsibility. It extends to other members of my family. It extends
a bit of a mystery, though,
to other areas of business which I get involved in. So, you know, I mean, I've got a lot of houses and things to look after, and that takes up a lot of time as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a scenario from the other day. I saw this. There was a woman coming up the stairs. It was actually at Waterloo East Station. We're coming up from the tube.
Oh, yes.
Because there's no escalator.
Yes.
Right? And as I noticed this woman was kind of struggling with a suitcase.
Yes.
And I was already two-thirds of the way down the stairs. I said, "Excuse me, would you like me to help you with that?"
Yeah.
And she was obviously slightly suspicious, as you would be in London.
Yes.
If you were perhaps
totally agree.
a travelling elderly sort of tourist.
Yes.
But she sort of looked at me and obviously thought I didn't look too mad. And she said, "Oh, thank you very much indeed." And I carried it up to the top of the stairs. Yeah. And she was still kind of walking slowly up.
But you were gasping for breath when you were at the top of the stairs.
No,
you must have been.
No, not at all.
Smoke 60 fags a day.
I don't smoke 60 fags a day.
Constant drinker.
That's just all of your lies.
Don't do any exercise.
No, I do plenty of exercise.
Sedentary lifestyle.
No, it's sedentary. But no, it's not. Yeah. As I was coming back down the stairs, I noticed that she had a husband with her.
Oh. He didn't volunteer?
Well, no, he was carrying an even bigger suitcase.
Oh, I see.
But so then I was presented with the dilemma, because I thought, well, should I now offer to help him? But he may feel emasculated if I offer to help him. Well, I would say they were both in their sort of mid to late 60s, maybe.
Oh, well, that's not old.
Well, it's not
so
particularly
old. So did you leave
old.
him to carry his own case?
I did, yeah.
Good, I'm glad about that, yeah.
Well, because I didn't want to make him feel somehow... and he also thanked me. He said, "Thank you very much."
Yeah, for helping my wife. I'm too old and knackered, you know.
But I didn't wish to kind of emasculate him in any way.
No, of course not.
Or put him in a bad place by offering to take his bag.
You've just reminded me of a situation I saw once at Clapham Station. Now, how busy Clapham Junction Station gets during rush hour.
Yeah.
There was a bloke there, and I spotted this guy. And in fact, I tipped off a member of staff on the station. What this fellow was doing was he was waiting at the base of the stairs on platform 15, right? And every time he spotted an attractive girl with a bag, he went over as though he was on the same train. "Oh, can I help you with your bag?" Yeah. And when they got to the top of the stairs, he then tried to engage in more conversation with the girl and tried to become a nuisance. Oh, yeah. Literally. And he did that 3 or 4 times.
What, asking about?
Yeah. I saw him do it because I was waiting for a train that was going to take 10 or 12 minutes.
Well, maybe that was just his way of trying to find himself a girlfriend.
No, he was a real nuisance. He was. I mean, it was a bit more sinister than just trying to chat a girl up.
Yeah.
It was, oh, where are you travelling to? Oh, come on, I'll take your bag down to your platform with you and all that. Oh, yeah, it was all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It was creepy.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got another weird story to tell you shortly.
Okay.
Also, I've picked up a journal for you, which I think is going to be helpful to you in your lonely life. This is good. Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
Milner's cross, Origi. And he's found the corner of the net. It was a lovely cross over on the far touchline from Milner. He beautifully weighted the ball towards the back post and rising high above his marker to nod it firmly in the corner of the net was Divock Origi.
This is Two Mics, so we are right here on Talk Sport until 4 o'clock. I don't know how that crept in there. There must have been some kind of error.
What?
The goal. It was Origi's goal.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a piece of information for you here, which I want you to take home and try out.
Yes.
Okay, it's a journal published by John Lewis.
Right.
Other department stores are, of course, available.
Yeah.
And they've got some lovely recipes in here for salad.
Right.
Summer garden salad. And I want you to try and make it.
Why?
Because I think it'd be good for you.
I don't like salads, sorry.
What do you mean you don't like salad?
I don't like salad.
What do you mean you don't like salad?
Don't like the taste of lettuce.
400 grams summer vegetables, a mix of green beans, asparagus.
No, hate that.
Tender stem broccoli.
No.
Fresh peas and broad beans.
I don't mind broccoli if it's cooked, but I don't like asparagus.
200 grams of goat's cheese.
No, I can't stand that. Goat's cheese, that's
zest
garbage.
of lemon. Extra virgin
rubbish.
olive oil.
Trash food.
Oh, look, you get to put in a tablespoon of Chardonnay vinegar.
No, you wouldn't get me eating any of that, mate.
That'd
I'm
be really
sorry.
good.
I'll tell you what I'll talk to you about, right? Now, have I told you that I do have an ambition one of these days to open a museum?
Oh, What sort of museum?
Dedicated to me.
So all your dusty old junk, you could open one.
Well, it's not dusty old junk, you see. I've got I've got
it is.
No, I've got election memorabilia from being on the road with Bill Clinton the first time. Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
They are. No, hang on. Excuse me.
What?
And
well, I'm not interested in it.
Well, yeah, but our millions of listeners are interested because
I very much doubt it.
Because my good old pal Brian Reid, who's a columnist in the Daily Mirror, is writing.
He's a mate of yours, is he?
Yes, he's a mate of mine. Is writing this morning about the fact that
Big Liverpool fan, isn't he?
He is a very big Liverpool fan, yeah. That he went and visited the Cristiano Ronaldo Museum.
Oh, in Madeira?
It's called Musea, that's MUSEU, CR7, in his hometown of Funchal, as you quite rightly say, Madeira.
Yes.
He says, in the huge space alongside floor-to-ceiling portraits of the great man sits glass cabinet after glass cabinet filled with every trophy he's won, from the Ballon d'Or to the Man United Cyprus Supporters Club Player of the Year award.
Right.
There are even full-size replicas of Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Charity Shields, giving punters the impression he won them on his own.
Well, that's a bit more interesting than going to see a load of old, election memorabilia, as you say, which is basically a load of old baseball caps and badges.
Hang on, and my Wayne Rooney's first England shirt, signed by Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, well, that's
Wayne Rooney's boots from Everton.
What? So this is just going to be a collection of your stuff in a museum?
All the memorabilia I've collected from war zones around the world and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very fascinating. Anyway,
I don't think people would pay to see it, though.
Brian says, my favourite is a statuette from something called Junk Sports, which is engraved Most Amazing Person in the World Award. There's every ball he's ever scored a hat-trick with, a video of how to achieve the perfect six-pack with the bronze god in various poses. Anyway, he says, I left in awe of the man's vanity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, if you're Cristiano Ronaldo, and Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the great sporting superstars of the world.
And
ever,
icon.
Ever,
And icon,
really.
yeah.
And he's still doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an awful lot of people who are very, very fascinated by anything that he's even touched.
Oh, well, I'd go to that museum and have a look at it, because I like successful people.
I don't think I'd go to Madeira specifically to see it.
Well, if I was in Madeira, I'd certainly go and have a look. I like winners. I don't like losers. I wouldn't go to a losers museum.
Well, why not?
Well, because he wants to associate with losers. You've got to remember, Mike, that if you want to be a winner, you've got to know about winning. You've got to associate with winners, okay?
Well, I don't associate with people just because they're either, in your words, winners or losers. I associate with people who I like. I associate with people who...
but I don't like losers.
Yeah, but you don't know any losers or winners.
Well, you do.
You meet people, you don't know whether they're winners or losers initially, do you?
I find losers are usually just boring bums who I don't want to associate with. Winners are fascinating people.
I don't think that's
what
right.
I find.
I think that's incredibly shallow.
No, I don't.
Matt says this, I'm in my late 20s and very much enjoy my own company, especially with a pint. Am I the future Mr. Parry?
Well, who knows?
Pascal says, for once I agree with Porky, I've never married, no kids, I'm extremely happy.
Right.
I enjoy other people's company, but also my own.
Yeah, good. I mean, if I'm sitting...
Maybe we should all get together at some kind of convention of, loneliness.
No, I don't think so. But if I'm sitting in the back of a pub, right, on a quiet afternoon, and I'm not working that day or that night, and I've got a couple of pints of beer, and I'm leafing through that day's newspapers or some journals of mine, some current affairs magazines or whatever, I couldn't be happier. And the last thing I want is somebody to come over and strike up a conversation with me. I don't want them to.
Well,
and I tell them to go away, actually.
Well, Roy has an explanation. He says the reason you're not lonely is you're too selfish to care about anyone but yourself. Stuff is more important to you.
So why did I start the conversation by saying how much I feel sorry for people who are on their own?
I've no idea, because you don't feel sorry for anyone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
The other thing is, it's worse for men than women, because whilst women can usually congregate amongst themselves without any fear that they'll be called odd or creepy or anything like that, men who tend to congregate or want to go meet other men just for company, tend to be viewed with a bit of suspicion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know why that should be.
No, I don't.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where people are constantly judging other people. Well, I mean, you're as bad as anybody else because you're always judging people.
No, but since the end of things like the British Legion, there aren't places where men congregate to
what
get
do you mean the end
together.
of the British Legion?
Well, the British Legion was a place where guys used to go on their own.
The British Legion still exists.
Very few of them these days.
I thought you said you still went to the British Legion down in
Gosport.
Gosport or somewhere.
There is one there, but the one, for instance, nearer me, which is in Surrey, in Stockbroker, it's literally in the middle of Stockbroker Belt, in a little town called Belmont, okay?
Belmont?
Yeah, it's closed down because nobody used it anymore and it's been converted into a block of flats.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame.
It is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Now, here's one for you, right?
Yeah.
I was driving home yesterday.
Oh, yes.
And I came to a junction in central London, round the back of Borough High Street.
Right.
And suddenly this motorcycle police officer arrived in the middle of the junction, just as my light was turning green.
Yeah.
And held his arms out, as if to stop all traffic from all sides.
Right.
Right. And then followed 18 motorcycle riders in police uniforms, with the yellow stuff on. But no, they weren't escorting anything, as far as I could see.
Hang on, were they trainees?
No, I don't think so. They'd all looked exactly the same as the guy who was standing in the middle of the road.
What were they doing?
I don't know. But there was 18 of them, all riding sort of in a convoy, followed by a Range Rover.
How do you know there were 18?
I counted them.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have anything better to do?
I was sitting at traffic lights.
Right, okay, yeah.
And as they came past, I said, an awful lot of these characters.
Yeah.
I wonder how many there are.
Yeah.
So I counted them.
Yeah.
And they were in twos, so it was easy to count them.
So 9 rows of 2?
Yeah, 9 rows of 2.
Yeah.
And they sort of snaked their way around the road.
I didn't even know the Metropolitan Police had 18 outriders.
Well, I guess they do. And then behind them was a sort of greyish, but marked up as a police car, Range Rover, with its lights flashing. But I thought there's going to be a big black Mariah or something coming.
Well, who was in the Range Rover?
I couldn't see.
Ah.
But there wasn't. It wasn't like they were escorting prisoners or anything like that. They didn't seem to be escorting.
Must have been a very important person to have 18 outriders ahead of your car.
Yeah, but I think the car wasn't carrying anybody.
Very odd.
Because normally you'd expect some of them to be behind the car, which they weren't. They were all in front of it.
You've just reminded me.
Very strange.
Just remind me what happened to me coming back up the A3 the other day, right, from the coast.
Right.
So I'm in the fast lane, right, and all of a sudden I'm aware of a really great burst of light in my mirror. And I looked up and there was a police car behind me.
Right.
With blue lights flashing. Now, it must have come at a hell of a speed.
You were speeding, as usual.
No, I wasn't actually, fortunately. I wasn't.
How unusual.
No, I was doing about 65 or something like that.
Yeah.
And...
Right, at 30?
No. It's the A3's 70 miles an hour. So anyway... And I thought that must have come up at a hell of a speed from somewhere, because I'm a vigilant driver like everybody else, and you'd notice if you suddenly saw blue lights approaching in your mirror.
Yeah.
So anyway, I reacted immediately and moved over to the left. The police car then pulled alongside me.
Yeah.
The policeman in the passenger seat gave me a finger wagging, you should have got out of the way quicker.
Oh,
right?
really?
Oh, yeah. And I looked at him and...
would you have been able to get out of the way quicker?
No, because I wasn't even aware he was there until he flashed his lights at me. He'd come up that fast,
But was there anyone on your inside lane, is what I'm saying?
No, I was able to move over.
Right.
Well, I had to get... I was overtaking a car when he came up behind me. By the time he'd flashed my lights, I'd overtaken the car and I moved back onto the inside. But they slowed up then, gave me the finger wagging, but not just a finger wagging. We're unhappy with you. You should have moved over quicker. He then moved on about, I would say, 50 yards, and then moved into the middle of a 2-lane road. So he's driving over the white line.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah. Straddling it.
Yeah. And then slowed down to 50, and then 40, and then 30.
Right.
So the traffic then is all banking up behind him.
Right.
Right?
Why was he doing that?
Well, my immediate thought was, right.
Was the speed limit being reduced as you were going, or not?
Well, we couldn't overtake the police car.
No, but I mean, were there any signs that said, how sometimes temporary speed limit 40, 30?
No, nothing like that. He just kept slowing down.
Could there have been an accident up ahead?
Well, this is exactly what I thought. I thought, what's going to happen here is, and I was thinking, I wonder when the next junction's coming up.
You should have tried to overtake him.
Well, you couldn't because I've just told you strolled over the white line.
I know.
There wasn't enough room either side
you
to
could
overtake
have pulled
him.
up next to him and gone like that.
No, I
with your
didn't.
Finger.
And so I'm thinking, right, I'm going off at the next junction because they're clearly going to close this road.
Yeah.
They must be. Must be a major accident ahead, and they keep traffic away. Anyway,
because that's like a sort of rolling roadblock scenario, isn't it?
It's a rolling roadblock. This goes on for about 5 minutes, literally, and traffic's crawling along at 30 miles an hour behind this police car. He then suddenly switched off all his lights, pulled into the slow lane, and whoosh, disappeared up a junction, and he was away.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no explanation as to why he did that.
How bizarre.
None whatsoever. Don't know what he was playing at.
Maybe they were just practising.
Well, yeah, or maybe he was trying to tell me, next time we tell you to get out the way, get out the way. I don't know.
Do you think it was directed at you?
Well, I hope not. But I didn't mind if they'd stopped me.
Were you directly behind them then? Was there any cars between you and the police
I was
car?
the one immediately behind them.
Ah. Well, they probably were doing it to mess you up.
Well, I've no idea, but it was a ridiculous exercise, and I've no idea what it was about.
Maybe you should complain to the local constabulary.
Well, I've got no evidence, have I? I've got no photographic evidence.
Yeah, but you can still say that that's what happened.
Yeah, but they deny it.
Well, if they denied it, that would make it even more interesting. I mean, you're supposed to be in Secret Truth and Justice. You get it sorted out.
I am the Secret Truth and Justice, and actually I will
Shouldn't be poo-pooed by somebody who just denies it.
I will be... that's a terrible word, that.
No, you would say that. It's not a terrible word. It's a perfectly usable phrase, which I use frequently.
It's a cliche. Don't like cliches.
Well, no, you don't like it because you think it has some reference to toiletry.
No,
scenario.
I don't. No. It's just a cliche.
It's not a cliche. It's a perfectly usable word.
It's a silly English cliche, and some of our colleagues use it, and I wince whenever I hear it.
Really? Well, I wince whenever I look at you. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
That music can only signal one thing, and it's time for Porkyvision, of course. It's that time of the week where Porky tells us what he's been looking at on television, what he'd like to recommend, and maybe some of the things that he would not like to recommend.
Yes.
So what do you got for us this week, Porky?
Right, well, let me tell you. Have you heard of a place called Grantchester?
Well, I know there's a show called Grantchester.
Well, no, there's a place called Grantchester.
Is there an actual place called Grantchester? A real place?
It's a little town just outside Cambridge, and its most famous resident is the author Geoffrey Archer and his wife Mary.
Oh, yes.
And they live...
very fragrant Mary.
Very fragrant Mary. They live in the vicarage, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That could be dangerous.
Well, I mean, it's
given who works in Grantchester.
Oh, well, who?
Well, the man you're about to talk about.
Oh, right, I see. No,
you know, his reputation at vicarage.
No, but what I was going to say is that's the connection, because what I'm going to tell you about is the show called Grantchester, right? Now, the show called Grantchester stars... what's his name? It is Jerome Robson, isn't it? No, what's his name?
Jerome Robson will do.
No.
Everybody knows him as that now.
No, what's his name?
Robson Green.
Robson Green. I keep getting that confused. Right.
Yeah.
Now, Robson
Green.
Robson
and Jerome, wasn't it?
Robson and Jerome, that's right. Now, Robson Green, right, is a man who is literally a professional Geordie.
Yeah.
Everything that involves anything in the northeast of England, he's in it.
Right.
You know, Catherine Cookson wrote all those books about Newcastle.
Well, you know, I didn't know they were about Newcastle.
Yeah, they were about Newcastle.
I've heard of her,
and one of them was called The Gambling Man, and Robson Green was in that.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a man who was a gambler, you know, who got beaten up and all this kind of stuff.
He wasn't in Spender, was he?
No, he wasn't in Spender. That was the other guy, Crocodile Shoes. Yeah. Anyway, the point of the story is, he teams up with is the boy called Norton?
I've never seen the show.
No, hang on. Who's the latest new heartthrob? Norton. It's James Norton, isn't it?
James Norton? I don't know.
No, well, you know, the guy who
James Norton's the guy from the Today programme, isn't he?
No, hang on. The guy I'm talking about was in War and Peace.
You're not talking about the guy from Poldark?
No.
He takes his shirt off a lot.
No, hang on.
Or Tim Hiddleston, or whatever his name is.
No, not Hiddleston. This guy has recently been in Happy Valley, where he was the villain.
Well, I've never seen that.
The guy who's locked up in jail.
Yeah.
Then he was in War and Peace.
Yeah.
Now he's in Grantchester.
Okay.
Is it James Norton?
I haven't seen any of those shows.
I'm looking towards the old gallery. They're going to find
know.
out. I think it's James Norton. Anyway,
I don't know.
He's the guy with the carrot-coloured hair, OK?
Okay.
Now,
you're not talking about Damien Lewis?
No, not Damien Lewis,
He's
you
got
idiot.
carrot-coloured hair.
No.
What are you calling me an idiot for? I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not helping me out. Now, listen,
Shocking.
What I was going to say is, now, this Grantchester, now, the reason I've focused on this is that this involves a vicar. This involves Robson Green is an incompetent policeman.
Right.
I mean, the worst policeman in the world, detective inspector, who can't even recognise a dead body when it's lying in front of him, you know what I mean? And who can only solve crimes when he gets the help of James Norton, who plays the local vicar in Grantchester. Right?
But doesn't Robson
Who's
have
called
a bit
Sydney.
But doesn't Robson have a bit of a real-life vicarage scenario going on?
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the way that, what's it called, drama is mirroring real life, or real life is mirroring drama, is that we had reports in the paper this week, in fact, it was broken in the Sunday Mirror, that Robson Green has run off with the vicar's wife.
Yeah.
And, you know, this struck me as being an amazing irony. Now, for instance, one plot in in Grantchester involves a bloke who died by falling off the top of one of the Cambridge colleges.
Oh, yeah.
Because as you can appreciate, most of the action goes on in Cambridge, you see, because that's the nearest big town.
Right.
That's where all
Are
the
they trying
universities
to ape sort of Morse and Lewis and all that?
Maybe a little bit.
That's all Oxford,
but it's
isn't
this weird relationship between the copper, Detective Inspector somebody, played by Robson Green, and I think it's James Norton.
And the vicar, I think it is James Norton.
Yeah, James Norton, the vicar, whose name is Sidney.
Right.
Now, the problem is that the cop is so stupid, played by Robson Green, he keeps going around scratching his head, and James Norton keeps solving all the crimes.
Right.
So, for instance, when the bloke, fell off the top of the building and to his death, first of all, Robson Green said, well, he's probably committed suicide.
Yeah.
James Norton said, no, I don't think it is that, well, in that case, he must have been murdered. He said, no, I don't think it's that either.
I'm sure you've told me this story before.
Yeah, why?
This particular guy falling off the top of the...
Yeah, well, that's
sure
just
you
one
have.
plot. But, I mean, for instance... Robson Green's a very weird cop. He can't solve any crimes without the help of the vicar.
Do you remember that show he was in where he played the sort of psychologist who was helping the police?
What was that, The Wire or something?
Not The Wire, but it was Wire in the Blood, I think.
Wire in the Blood, okay, I don't know about that.
But it was very gory. And he was very strange in that as well.
Okay, he's in
He specialises in being a sort of complicated figure, doesn't he?
Well, no, it's weird. What he does, he spends most of his time in the local pub, this cop, right? And this is, it's based in 1950s England.
Oh, is it?
Or it might be 1930s, but
Really?
it's either the 1930s or the 1950s.
But it's not present day. Can you not tell by the cars?
Yeah, I think it's
Fatty Arbuckle in it.
No, he's not in it. But the problem is the cop cars are so old, I can't tell if they're 1930s or 1950s.
Well, the 30s, 50s cars are quite different.
I think it might be the 30s in that
30s
case.
cars look a bit more like sort of Model T Fords.
It's sort of Dixon and Doc Green
50s
era.
look a bit more like Morris Oxfords.
Yeah, I think it might be the 50s. But anyway, the point of the story is, so he spends most of his time sitting in a pub, drinking beer.
Well, it's Robson Green.
Yes, it's Robson Green, the cop, and playing backgammon.
Backgammon?
Backgammon.
Who with?
Well, with anybody in fine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's really weird.
Well, I like backgammon.
Is it when you open a board? Is the board folded in
it's
two?
in a box. Well, it's in a box,
And
usually.
what's the principle of backgammon?
It's basically you try and get from one end of the box to the other. It's a sort of it's like a chess game, except it's you move in different ways.
Okay.
And it's a big gambling game as well.
Okay, and this cop is so useless. I mean, he can't even tell, for instance, when you see in a complicated plot recently. Old James Norton, Sidney, the vicar, he got arrested because a schoolgirl had gone missing and she'd written in a diary that she'd been getting Rogerised by the vicar.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So, yeah. So he gets arrested, and unfortunately, Robson Green, his mate, has to interview him and say, well, have you been interfering with this young... No, how could you doubt me? And all of a sudden, Robson Green... The cop, the inspector, saying, so, maybe he's not the man I knew and all that. But it turns out that although James Norton was not Rogerising this young girl, another vicar was.
Oh, dear.
So they must stuck the vicars, you see what I mean?
See.
Yeah.
So a vicar from another place.
Yeah, so she'd been writing in a diary, the vicar has been giving me one, but it wasn't...
Such nicely put.
Well, if you see what I mean, see what I mean. But it wasn't...
and was the vicar from outside of Grantchester then?
No, well, the vicar was actually James Norton's boss. He was he was kind of, like the dean of the parish or something like that, you see what I mean?
The top man.
Yeah, and he had a dog collar with a purple shirt.
He would have,
Whereas James Norton, Sidney,
Just
the
has a
vicar,
black one.
just has a black one, absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is...
It's all very sordid, isn't it?
Yeah, but,
Why do these shows have to be so sordid?
I don't know. Now, on another one, and by the way...
Are you telling us Grantchester's good, by the way, or not?
Well, it's okay.
No.
I can't make my mind up. I can't make up whether it's too stupid.
Is it in the middle of a series, or is it finished?
It's. I think there's one more to go in a series of 6 or something. But anyway, so how about this? This is the frail personality of the cop played by Robson Green, right? He suddenly discovers that his newborn baby has probably got scarlet fever.
Right.
So wouldn't you think that a man who has the steely character of a detective inspector in a rural town like Grantchester would immediately, take this with fortitude?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He goes off on the ale for a week.
Goes and gets drunk.
Goes and gets...
Robson Green does.
Robson Green, he's sloshing around.
But he can't handle it.
Can't handle it. So Sidney, the vicar, goes after him and said, look, don't you think you should be at home with your family?
Yeah.
And he said, I can't handle it, Why? Oh, you don't know what it's like to have a sick child and all this sort of nonsense.
How bizarre.
Anyway, the child...
Sounds like old cobblers.
Yeah, it is a load of cobblers. Anyway, the child turns out not to have scarlet fever.
Right.
So the wife walks in this pathetic scene and says, oh, his fever's broken. And Robson Green says...
Is she and Geordie as well?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Sort of.
And Robson Green says...
Fever's broken?
Yeah. And Robson Green says... I am so sorry. And bursts into tears. So it's old Sydney again, the vicar, right, who has to, be the man in the relationship, say, don't worry, mate, it's anybody. But in fact, he should have. Now, anyway, where this gets to, in the end, is that all the time...
You don't have to give the end away.
No. All the time, James Norton is a very handsome vicar, right?
And what about
Sydney?
The Rogerising vicar isn't?
Well, here we go. Well, the Rogerising vicar's gone to jail now. He's done. He was done.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah,
that didn't take long.
Yeah. Well,
did they find the girl then?
Well, unfortunately, she died. That was
Did he kill her?
No.
Don't tell me.
No. I'll tell you what happened. What happened was...
Well, I don't think you should tell us what happened.
She thought she was pregnant by the vicar.
Yeah.
So one of her mates, who was a schoolboy, poured a load of ammonia down her throat because they thought that would abort the baby.
Really?
It was very sad, and she
What a
died.
terrible show.
Yeah. But anyway, look, the punchline to all this is James Norton is constantly...
Have you seen the time?
Yeah, he's constantly being singled out by the local ladies of the area
He doesn't have a partner.
From rich families, and he's into a bit of Rogerising and all that, right? So he gets a grip of a woman who's married... Right?
Yeah.
We don't know whether Rogerisation has taken place, but the husband, who's a sort of former RAF officer, turns out and says, Vic, I've got to have a word with you, please. And James Norton says, yes, what is it can I help you with? And the bloke pulls his fist back, his right fist, and goes bang, and smashes Sydney the vicar in the face and says... That's a warning to stay away from my wife. So old James Norton's getting a reputation as being a right old,
Surprising
three
you
times
never
a night
had
Rogeriser.
Surprised you never had that kind of treatment, really.
Well, I mean...
a number of husbands that you were sort of creeping around behind their backs.
Oh, don't worry, I had a huge husband alert antenna in my head.
Did you?
Never got anywhere near me.
No, okay.
No, believe me.
So that's it then? Is that your Porkyvision for the week?
Yeah, that's Grantchester. A confused plot of a vicar who's constantly in demand for Rogerisation.
Yeah.
A cop who's as thick as my fridge door, can't solve any crimes. Even when people throw themselves off the roof of Cambridge colleges, you can't work out whether they've committed suicide or decided that his mate murdered him.
No, shocking.
Yeah.
Sounds like one not to watch.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. That was Porkyvision for the week.
It was.
There'll be one at the same time next week.
There will be.
Tomorrow night, of course, it's the Porky Quiz.
Certainly is.
On the Queen.
That's it.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Stones is down. He's struggling now.
Oh dear, he's gone down in the heart of the Everton defence. He's now walking over to the touchline and they're going to make another change here. He was clutching his stomach 2 minutes ago. He doesn't look entirely happy. He's walking off the pitch. I think they're going to have to make a substitution.
Crazy, but that's how it goes.
Now, the risk of causing you some ire,
yes.
I have to ask you about John Stones. Is he going to miss the game at the weekend?
Well, I don't know. I mean...
What's wrong with him?
I've no idea.
They didn't say anything before the game was wrong with him, did they?
No, they said he was having stomach cramps.
Yeah.
My own view is... I think he might have been horribly embarrassed by once again giving the ball away.
Yeah, and being nowhere near the first two goals either.
Nowhere near the first two goals when we, I've seen a newspaper picture of the leap that the lad who scored the second Liverpool goal made.
He's not a very big man, is he, Origi?
No. And I think he might have just been embarrassed. I mean, I'm sure in real trouble if he's physically not capable of playing on Saturday, but... There's, an air of doom and gloom has descended over us because
it really has.
Manchester United looked lively, and I don't know.
I know. I'm sorry to have to ask you. We'll try not to talk about it anymore. Here's one from Franklin. He said, Grantchester takes place in the 50s. The idea is that both the vicar and the cop are World War II vets, and they bond because of it.
Oh, that's not apparent to me.
Isn't it?
I think I've watched all the episodes. I'm not aware of that, I tell you. Not aware of it at all.
Oh, okay. Charles says, MG, I also saw a line of 18-odd motorbikers all wearing police jackets, but it was in the Surrey woods when I was walking my dog.
Really?
Weird.
Really?
Well, they're actually in the woods. That is weird.
What are they doing in the woods?
Now, Mike from Leith says on the text, the car that you see with all the police around it was probably carrying Barack Obama, as he is over here right now. Well, it's a good guess, Mike, but I don't think that's true because Obama always drives around in the Beast, doesn't he? Which is the Americans' own, bulletproof Cadillac.
And the American Secret Service following.
They bring all their own stuff with them.
Yeah, listen, what do you think of avocado?
What do I think of it?
Yeah.
I rather like avocado.
It's the new in food.
In food?
Yes, the new
How
in
is it
food.
the new in food? I mean, it's been the in food. It's the superfood.
No,
it's been a very, very in food for years.
There's been a tremendous surge in avocado sales, right?
Has there?
People are going after them with salad and all that. Do you know where I love avocado?
With prawns.
In Indian restaurants. That's always my starter in Indian restaurants.
Avocado and prawns?
Yes, always. Yeah, always have that as a starter.
You can't get avocado and prawns in Indian
restaurant.
restaurant.
Yes, you can. The one I go to can.
What sort of Indian restaurant is that?
It's a brilliant Indian restaurant.
Omelette and chips as a main course.
No, it's brilliant.
No, avocado and prawns I quite like, actually.
Yeah.
But I would expect that you would like it because it's perfect it's like Abigail's Party, isn't it? 1970s food.
Well, it is actually, yeah. But I mean, what's wrong with that? Most of the things that you...
Nothing particularly wrong with it.
Most of the things that you did and enjoyed in your 20s stick with you for the rest of your life.
I wouldn't say that.
Your music tastes, your taste in food... Your
tasting
habits,
women.
If you smoke in your 20s, you normally smoke for the rest of your life. Your taste in women,
I'm not sure if that's
like
true.
blondes or brunettes and all that. It is true.
Sure.
It is true. It is true.
No,
I'm
think
certain.
So.
But anyway, look, what I was going to say is, it's got tremendous health benefits. Okay.
Yep.
It is tremendous health benefits.
Why does this come as any great surprise to you?
Well, because I thought avocados had disappeared.
No, they're a superfood.
What's that mean?
They're one of those foods that if you eat them, like blueberries, you get an awful lot more out of them than you would get out of most other foods of that type. Like as a vegetable, for example, if you wanted to eat an avocado a day, it's much, much better for your body than eating a carrot a day.
How do you eat an avocado? Do you have to peel it first?
No, you cut it in half. You take out the stone.
All right.
And then you can either scoop it out with a spoon, or you can add a little vinaigrette to it.
No,
or you can make it into avocado prawns with some rosemary sauce.
You know, sometimes you can buy a pear,
and
it might be very hard and crunchy, and I don't like it. I throw it away.
Why don't you leave it to ripen?
Well, I can't. I haven't got the patience for that. But I only like soft pears. Now, when you buy an avocado and cut it in half, is the danger that it might be hard inside, or is it always soft?
Yeah. Well, depending on where you buy them, if you go to one of the more expensive supermarkets, they will sell you ripe and ready avocados.
Excellent, that's good.
And you can, if you're buying them, loose, you can give them a little squeeze. And if they're hard, you don't buy them.
Right. Okay.
If they give a little, then you do buy them.
Right. That's excellent. Now,
but you can also make guacamole with them, of course.
Yeah. Well, that's the stuff that Peter, what's his name, thought was mushy peas.
No, that's an apocryphal story.
Well, I don't care.
It's not true.
That's what he...
no, but it's not a true story.
Anyway, let me tell you this. Global consumption of the avocado has become a 2 billion, that's 2BB, billion, pound industry. It's doubled in size in the last decade. The trend has led to cafes and restaurants offering it in more dishes, such as smoothies and avocado cheesecake.
Right. I'm not a fan of that.
And a range of avocado and guacamole recipes.
Guacamole.
Yeah, have been written by top chefs.
Yeah.
Avocados are the fastest growing ingredient at cafe chain Prêt à Manger.
What?
Which sliced up
Prêt à Manger.
Sliced up.
Did you know McDonald's have sold them, by the way?
Hey?
You know McDonald's bought Prêt à Manger.
No, I didn't know that.
And they've now sold them.
It was started by two young men, wasn't it, who wanted to bring better sandwiches to London.
Do you know the first one was?
Where?
Hampstead.
Excuse me. Yeah, that figures because it's trendy.
Yeah, it opened up just as a single shop.
Yeah.
Selling sort of, fresh sandwiches and all that kind of thing, and it's become a massive, massive business.
Up near the corner where the tube station is.
Yeah, it was there,
Yes, that's right, yeah. Now then, it says that Prêt à Manger, which I've told you about,
Prêt à Manger,
last year bought 5 million avocados. I mean, just think of that.
Yeah.
5 million avocados.
Where would you put them all?
Where would you put them all?
What are you thinking? Well, I don't think they bought them all at once.
Vegetarian options are so in demand that Prêt will open a vegetarian-only shop in London this summer, which will be based on avocado recipes.
Yeah.
It's going to convert one of its stores in Soho to test new menu options, OK? That's amazing, all this, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they are lovely avocados. They're very good for you. They taste nice, and they're very, very easy to eat.
In my Indian restaurant, I have avocado prawns.
Well, I'm
to start
staggered
with.
that you can get avocado prawns in an Indian restaurant.
Why?
Because I've never seen an Indian restaurant with those kind of starters.
Well,
I've seen Indian restaurants where they have, a little English section for people who don't like Indian food.
Right.
Like, you can have chips and you can have, omelettes or something like that.
No.
Most of the Indian restaurants I go to would not have avocado prawns on
And my main course is always chicken biryani.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
And they have, like...
Chicken tikka biryani?
No, chicken biryani with bits of silver paper on the top, which you can eat.
Silver paper?
Yeah, they don't do your fillings in. You can eat it.
Are you sure?
No, strips of silver paper on the top.
Why would you eat that?
I don't know, but it's a decorative thing.
Yeah.
But it does. I mean, I've tried it by picking it up and putting it on my
it's making
fillings.
me feel funny now. But
it doesn't electrocute you.
Really?
No.
That's always a plus. You can go for dinner and not die. This is Talk Sport.
Allen out to Coutinho, sets it, shoots towards the far corner, and it's a lovely arrow goal from Coutinho from 25 yards out. And you just wonder if that pushes Roberto Martinez further and further to the brink. Liverpool 4, Everton 0, and Everton have been thrashed, they've been bashed, they've been battered, they've been clattered.
Battered and flattered, eh? Funny enough, the game's just come on the TV as well.
Hey?
Game's just come on the TV again. In case you want to see it again.
No, I don't want to see it again. I didn't want to see it the first time.
No, that was your first mistake.
Certainly don't want to see it
Now, how about
again.
this from Bill, who's commenting on your museum idea?
Oh, yes.
He says, Jesus, I don't want to pronounce it the other way, the National Plank Museum featuring Porky's greatest Weatherspoon moments and people he's shafted over the years. # horrific.
Is that supposed to be funny?
Well, because that's what you said it would be like, going to see some museum full of all your old tat.
No, it wouldn't be full of my old tat. I've got mementos going back years, you know. For instance, what have I got? I've got
Nobody knows. I don't know. Nobody cares what
I've got an award that was presented to Status Quo.
Why have you got it?
They gave it to me. Well, I met them in some
when they
job
were off
somewhere.
The face?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
You might as well have this award.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was some award ceremony.
Right.
And it's two electric guitars, you know, leaning against each other, you know, with proper strings on, all that kind of stuff.
Though, right?
Yeah, it's about
like life size.
about 6 inches high, about 8 inches high. And it says, you know, Status Quo National Lifetime Achievement Award.
From what? From who?
I don't know, something like the Music Appreciation Society or something like that, you know.
Okay. Well, maybe it's from the Royal Society for the Prevention of Birds.
No, it wasn't. Don't be ridiculous.
Marcus says this, you simply need to shake the avocado, and if the seed is loose, it's ready. Squeezing will leave soft spots. Well, you might be being a bit of a connoisseur there, Marcus. Sean says you can get perfectly ripe avocado in every supermarket. They put 2 in a packet, cost about £1.70.
Yeah, that's not bad. I might try that again and get some prawns. You get prawns separately, I suppose, and then put them together.
Yeah, you can't buy avocado and prawns together.
You'd think somebody would have done that by now. You can
buy ready peeled and cooked prawns. Buy some Mary Rose sauce, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, good idea.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the Two Mics.
That's always a plus. You can go for dinner and not die.